Hey, yeah. You know how we do it. Gonna get a little bit of that sun in 3, 4. Oh, the sun is always rising and sets. Gonna get some of that sun at the corner right there. And then we're gonna go, of course, all the way to the corner and then cross to my second home, the mountain, and that's what it is with that. And that's how we gotta go with that, you know. That is something which we gotta get drilling with that and gotta be putting on the plans, you know, to get that LOVE for the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, plumbers, electricians, you know. Oh yeah, that's when it got that sun. That's what I like, getting some of that good sun. And here we're gonna get rid of some of these because we got too much garbage. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to do, and that's what we did. And now we're gonna get it on the doors. Here's only one way, but in theory, you know, you can never know. If it's one way, it doesn't matter. Maybe sometimes you gotta double check because they could be crossing the street nonetheless, you know, on by the other side entering. So you gotta always check, because maybe the person doesn't see the sign and just turns, even if it's one way, you know. So you always gotta double check, do your prudence ourselves, you know. Sometimes that's just what we gotta do as I march now. What a beautiful sun. I just love it. Hot day today, still summer. Last day of correction. Last week of summer. Last Monday of the summer 2025. And I was so moody last night, so moody this morning, but feel much better. I did laundry, did a little bit of stretching, did some email sending for some work and some volunteer work and some of that good loving, you know. So hope I get it on the go now. Turn again towards the sun. Feels so good. And here we gotta be prudent again when we cross the street, you know. It requires prudence, although this is one way again. So this is a one-way street, but again, they could turn on the other side, you know. And if they turn on the wrong side because they don't know or they're just visiting, you know, that's always an impediment to safe driving. So safety with liberty together going hand in hand, you know, double trouble on the go. And that is something which we have, of course, to operate together. What we do now, you know, is sometimes when we're gonna get that drill on the left, on the right, and right down the middle, because now I got added responsibilities to this obligations, which I don't have them personally, you know, with my neurodivergent and as an individual citizen, sovereign individual citizen. It's always on the go. Always going to the mountain or to the river, to the mountain or to the river in the morning, afternoon. Today's late afternoon. I left late because there was so much geopolitics, and you know how it is with me, is geopolitics, rock and roll fitness. My ASP routine is I have Asperger's, aka HFA, high functioning autism. So I always have this routine where I have to incorporate, and it's automatic, type of like a software updates, but it's automatic, of course, all the time. It's geopolitics, sports and fitness, rock and roll, geopolitics. So grateful, thankful my rent's paid my rent, electricity bill is paid, and got food, got coffee when I get back home. And of course, my only bill left to pay, got a deadline by the end of the month, so you gotta pay that phone bill. My face already, I guess you got enough of my face. Gonna look at those on the storm there. You got a little bit of that danger zone there. I always warn people to be careful in parks, and especially in the forest where we're gonna go atop the mountain, because of course, you know, you see those branches there. Those branches fell and they could have damaged somebody. You could have, of course, hit somebody on the go, and that's always double prudence when we got, and always turn our heads left and right, because you never know, the brakes malfunction, the electricity snaps, the citizen driver presses the accelerator instead of the brake. So it's always an added prudence to go now, and of course to be mindful of the responsibilities, duties and obligation, not just the rights, because we have both, you know. In Concordium we have a Concordium where we have, of course, to have both those dynamics interchange and interplayed for all the dynamics here. For example, you turn your head left or right, although we got a good, it's not that spacious, but see, they can come from over there as well, so you got to cover that angle also. See here, for example, now it's safe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So I kind of know how many steps I gotta take. So I count the distance and the velocity, and it's always good to get a little bit of that rock and roll here. What is this? Is that some food? Maybe. Let's see. Wow, this is full of food. So somebody donated something that good. And what is this? I guess I got some wild grapes. Let's see. Oh yeah, wild grapes. I'm gonna take some of those wild grapes. Gonna take some of that lettuce. I'm gonna see what else we have here. Definitely gonna take some of those. So always grateful, thankful. These are gonna be put on the side. So I'm gonna take some fruit, gonna manage it and put it on the side here, and take some of that fruit, right? You know, yeah. Take some of that fruit. Thank you. You know, it's always good here, and always good to go with that fruit and exercising fruit, you know. I'm gonna take some of these. This is lettuce here. This one we're gonna take some radishes. This one I don't know. It's gonna be on that for my friend. And this one, what is that? Sounds ready to make food, I guess. So we got it on that food, you know. Always good, you know, to get it on that. And there is something which we have to do on the go, and there is something which we got, you know, to get it on the food. Got it on the go now to get it, and there's something which we have, you know, to get it on the go, you know, to get it out. Oh yeah, that's a little bit of fruit. 1, 2, 3, 4, that is what it is, and anything to here, you know, this is what it is, you know, it's something which we got, you know. Happy, content, you know. Got that fruits and got that lettuce and got a little bit of good food. So this is gonna top up what I gotta leave a lot for the others. So that's always important, you know. This is gonna be, I guess we're gonna put it on us here like that. When the night comes, you know, it's gonna drop. It's gonna drop in temperature, and that's what it is with that, and that's what you gotta go doing with that, and that's how we're gonna get on that go, you know. Always important to manage all the characteristics of Asperger's 24/7. Well, we are, of course, to be involved in all this magnificent, beautiful food donation here. Thank you to the farmers, bakers, butchers, nurses, doctors, firefighters, the plumbers, electricians, all those welders, all those involved in the distribution of food. Of course, we got to get that appellation of now, and it's something which we have, of course, to be the dynamic in the encounters, that all these were also by trucks, you know. So keep that in mind. Canada raisins, Canada, so that's always good, you know. Get some of that Canada grade, and these I'm going to share with my anonymous friend. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I don't want to make a mess, so how we're going to do this, I'm going to put them there. I'm going to take another bag because there's a bag available there, so that's just how we're going to rock and roll with that. Yeah. Double bag it, super important, you know, the fruits, and spin it a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, and there we go. Now, so gonna go and now I have food to come back when I come back, you know, from top of the mountain. Then we go, and I got the lettuce, and I share with my anonymous friend, of course. Lettuce, super important to share, you know. If you have, you know, don't be so selfish. I'm not totally selfless, I'm not totally selfish, but this letter is going to have to be, of course, shared with my anonymous friend, and that's just something which we have, of course, to proceed in all the instances of the procession going atop the mountain, and coming back. I got fruit, so now it's more than 44 pounds, and now we back it up in the sun, and we, oh yeah, definitely. Now it's definitely on that charge, and now the workout is gonna be even more, of course. So make sure I got everything strapped. 2, 3, 4, and that's it. See, so hey, gonna put the hair there, let the mane out a bit, not too much. On the top of the mountain, we're gonna mane it down, and here we go. Now we're gonna get doing like that, and that's we're gonna go and see. So for everybody here, you can enjoy all that. All that is yours to take, to enjoy. All that is yours, and you can take these 4 grapes, wash them and dry them, and gonna eat. What was the 4th one? 4th one is here. These 4 are gonna try it on ourselves. So hey, enjoy. Look at that. By the time I come back, somebody's gonna take all that. Thank you for the donation. Eh? Whoever did that, thank you, thank you, thank you. Make sure you close it properly. Oh, and you even have here. You even have more goods here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's always something which, of course, you got to be meditating about. See, you got some minis, you got some gâteaux, you got some of that. Let's see what's in here. See, you got some more fruit in here. You got some more of that goodness. So goodness and kindness right here for the donation. So by the time I come back, it's probably going to be all on the gone. So yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. Butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, make sure you drive safe. You don't rush. Gonna march for the sanitation workers. See, these are athletes, my brothers and sisters, picking up the garbage and out the collection. These are athletes as well, you know, so we always gotta get it on the drill for them. Of course, it's always in concomitance into the things that we have now, you know, to get that appellation, and of course to be involved in all the domain where we are now, all the domains, you know, something which we have, of course, to do ourselves, and be, of course, on the mindfulness now to be doing on that and getting on the go for that. And yeah, those are all the domain names which we have now to get it on that and support, you know, all the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, all those involved in the production of food, all those involved in the picking up the garbage now, you know. Thank you, thank you, thank you. They did a little bit of that good work, arbeit there, and that's a little bit of good arbeit, you know. So that's always good to see done, and gotta give them a little bit of tickets. NHL, let's go Habs for the Montreal people, who my fellow brothers and sisters there picking up the garbage. They're gonna go to my place in a few minutes. Well, actually it's more far from here, but here to go for the rock and roll in the sun for the public workers to pick up the garbage, the compost, the garbage, the compost, you know. It's on that rock and roll for them, and you always gotta meditate, eh? All their labor, those are athletes also, so keeping our city safe and sanitary, you know, that's always something which we have, of course, to get on that arbeit, and we interject now, but you gotta meditate across the 63, always for the 63. See, otherwise we would be not that healthy, you know, because sanitation, super important, public sanitation. So there go public workers going, you know, these there. They could quadruple, you know me, I love yellow flowers. So hey, this is how we go here. You see that? Look at those beauties. They gotta get it so beautiful. But please don't leave this trash here. This has to go in the garbage, you know, and recycle in the public garden, you know. Don't leave that in the public garden. It's, you know, pollution, and gotta get it for the gardening, you know. And thank you to the garbage collectors, you know. Thank you to the garbage collectors. Where we go, and that's where we are now, man. And here another beauty here. Look at that. Look at these beauties. I just love these. These quadruple my smile, and of course now I even got a little bit of extra smile because of them. And they're gonna tighten the below. Hold on my jacket, because later it drops, so I'm gonna have to get it with me. So that is just what it is, you know. It's something which we have to just digest sometimes, you know, the availability, of course, of our digestions. Oh, should bring this back. If you take it, bring it back. If you take it that far, you should bring it back, you know. Bring it back. Bring it back where you get it from, you know. Just gotta do like that and just bring it back, you know. If you have to take it. Some people, I guess, because of constraints, you know, it's easier because you sometimes carry bags and you can't take a taxi, you can't take public transport because it's tough economic times. So, but just I guess it got to be brought back, you know, to the store. You know, maybe we should have a few ones that have just a few ones in every store that have an allocated mileage for the neighborhood, you know, and then they can be brought back, you know, something like that. I guess we could always work something out together for the individual and the collective. Oh yeah, you get hit by that sun, feels good. And yeah, I'm so happy now, joyous. You know, I got some fruits, and financially tough times for myself as well, but you know, I live according to my spiritual routines. You know, I have Asperger's, so HFA, they merged. Asperger's and HFA, they're now blended together, fused in the autistic spectrum. It's called HFA, high functioning autism, meaning that we don't require as much support as other people on the different levels of autism, right? I'm just gonna go get here a bit and just gonna discuss a bit about Asperger's, and just gonna rock and roll again for the 63. Always for the 63. You know me, I was born, of course, in a past life, previous incarnations in the USA 3 times, so it's always for the 63 as we go, and always for the 10, the 50, and the 3, and always for my brothers and sisters, butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, those picking up the garbage now. You saw them, they're athletes. Please, NFL, NHL, NBA, MLB, give them some tickets. Free tickets. Ain't no way, my brothers and sisters, with millionaires, billionaires, too. You gotta finance that. You gotta finance that go, you know. You gotta finance it, because money-wise, economic issues, super important, you know. Super important, because they're part of us, you know, and sometimes these economic issues press us to volunteer or impede our betterment as individuals. As individuals, part of the collective, of course, they can impede our wellness, well-being, and that's my only stress now, to be correct and I guess direct and straightforward and honest, whatever you want to call it. My only stress now really is financial. So having this food security relieves, you know, it's a great relief. You know, it's great relief for myself. So now I'm happy, joyous. I go to the mountain. You already know, for years and years and years and years, I pretty much go work out, march, go to the mountain, and do these long vlogs, I guess. Long for some, less for others, getting 4 views, and most of my shorties video get the most views, but it's not that I do it for views. I do it for, of course, the geopolitical discussions, which sometimes requires a more in-depth, of course, facilitation, of course, all the demands which are facilitated integrally in the dominion, of course, of the North American collective, where we are in the collective North American dominion, or what I call the North American civilizational complex, of which we are a civilizational complex of North America, meaning that we are part of the collective North American civilizational complex. It's always the pressing matters which are pressing us now, the high economic financial burden for many, not all, of course, many. So my brothers, of course, who are, of course, now part of the appellation, of course, in the indications, they're making billions of dollars. And you know, my brothers and sisters, athletes, as much as I love gridiron, North American football, and hockey, and women's hockey, you know how it goes with that rock and roll. 44 million a year playing all about that sport, you know. It's just be more charitable. And when you hear ambulances, hear the ambulance, hear the sirens, you know, hear the sirens, hear the ambulance, just slow down, turn your heads left and right, you know, turn your heads left and right, because you never know, the ambulance, the firefighters, the truckers, you know, there's something where we gotta get doing with that. So we gotta take attention, and we gotta take on that notification where we are now, of course, to be in the position. And it's a position which we gotta clearly be advertent about, and in not just the comprehension, but the putting of comprehension into action by practical action, to get it on the turning your heads left and right. And if you hear the ambulance, if you hear the firefighter, if you hear the police, just do the 180, eh? I always say the 180. Basically, you turn 180 degrees like this to your left, and 180 degrees to your right. So that makes for a 360 circle, right? So that makes for a 360 circle, basically. Basically, that makes for a 360 circle. I just want to drop something in the garbage there. So I'm going to do my 360 circle, because I just realized I have an additional garbage. I have an additional garbage to drop So I'm gonna do the 360 again. Just because I gotta put it in the garbage. Just realize that it is something that I gotta do myself now. We just drop the garbage in the garbage. So here, turn your heads left and right. See that one's passing, and here where we come, we're gonna go check out those flowers there. We gotta check out those flowers. And that's what we do. And turn your heads left or right 3 times. See, tack, tack. That's it. And these are what I love here. You know, every time I pass here, these are so incredible mixed with those ones. The blue and the yellow are just gorgeous combination. And you got white ones there. This is a garden. You see it often in my videos. I always like it. I just love this garden and how it is. See, it even has in deeper violet and red there. Look at that. That's just a beautiful garden. Yeah, you see many of my videos, whenever I pass here, I always point it out and kind of press my pedals and slow down a bit to pass it. You have a very nice garden. J'adore votre jardin, il est tellement beau avec comment que c'est fait là-bas en avant. Là.
C'est le fun cette année, hein?
Ouais, chaque fois que je passe, je dis ouais, c'est vraiment un beau travail. C'est un mélange comme des couleurs proportionnées, mais c'est des couleurs contrastes.
Il y a bien des plantes qui ont poussé tout ça. Là.
Ouais, ouais.
C'est pas toujours moi qui ai décidé.
Ah, c'est pas. Ah ouais, mais ceux-là, je les aime bien, le jaune là.
Celles-là, les jaunes, là,
Ouais.
ils ont poussé là tout seuls.
C'est la nature, ceux-là, ouais.
Ben, je les avais mis avant, ailleurs.
Ouais.
Ça pousse, je les laisse faire.
Ben ouais, vous êtes bien mieux. Moi, je l'ai fait pareil. Je les ai pas enlevés. C'est tellement beau, le petit jaune, là.
Ouais, parce qu'ils restent belles longtemps.
Ça laisse longtemps quand même.
Ben oui, c'est ça que c'est les dernières.
Ça fait penser à les tournesols, des petits tournesols.
Ouais, ben c'est plus petit. C'est très belle.
Ouais, c'est bien plus petit de proportion, oui.
Ouais.
Moi, j'ai l'Asperger's. Vous savez c'est quoi?
Laquelle?
L'Asperger's, l'autisme hautement fonctionnel. Vous savez c'est quoi?
Non.
Juste pour vous dire, là, j'ai une condition de neurodivergence, fait que des fois, tu sais, la communication sociale, c'est plus difficile pour nous. C'est la compréhension sociale. Tu sais, des fois, on se rapproche tellement proche de la personne, des choses comme ça. Vous savez, c'est pas commun. Il n'y a pas bien des gens qui l'ont. Ils savent même pas bien des gens qui savent.
C'est quoi?
C'est l'Asperger's.
OK, Asperger.
Asperger, oui.
OK. Ben, c'est quand même connu, l'Asperger.
Vous connaissez, vous, oui, vous connaissez?
Moi, je connais un jeune qui souffre d'Asperger.
Oui, moi aussi, mais c'est pas une maladie, hein, mais
Non, c'est une autre sorte de fonctionnement.
dysfonctionnement du cerveau, fait
Ben,
que, ouais.
on n'est pas pareil, personne. Hein?
Non, on n'est pas pareil, c'est juste que, tu sais, des fois, la manière que je communique, je dois toujours faire attention, tu sais, l'espace personnel, là. Des fois, je me rapproche trop des gens, puis parce que j'ai l'Asperger, ça fait que ces choses-là, c'est bizarre, c'est étrange un peu. Pour nous.
Vous fonctionnez très bien, puis si vous aimez les plantes, bravo.
Mais ça m'a pris bien du temps pour le fonctionnement, là. Ça m'a pris un couple d'années, là, pour bâtir ces ponts avec les neurotypiques comme vous, là.
Ouais. Et vous aimez les jardins, vous aimez les plantes. C'est quand même une grande richesse d'aimer la nature.
Puis ceux-là, en plus de ça, les jaunes, j'adore ça, ça me fait sourire tellement.
Celles-là, c'est moi qui les ai installées là.
Ouais.
Puis ça fleurit presque tout l'été.
Ouais, ça fleurit,
ça
ça
demande
fleurit.
rien, là.
Connaissez-vous les noms, c'est quoi?
Ça, c'est un rudbeckie Goldstrom.
OK.
Goldstrom.
Je sais qu'ils ont des noms en latin, la classification
Ah, ben,
en
moi,
latin.
Ben,
Ouais.
Goldstrom, c'est plus en anglais.
La botanicus.
Ouais. Puis ça, c'est des échinacées.
Ouais.
Ça, c'est pas tuable non plus. C'est beau longtemps. Les roses là-bas, c'est les phlox paniculés.
Ouais, je les aime bien ceux-là, le mauve.
Ouais,
Le mauve, c'est beau en arrière, j'en vois en plus, c'est là.
Oui, j'en ai. Et ça aussi, c'est pas je mets de plus en plus des choses faciles et des grosses plantes. Parce que c'est moins d'entretien.
Moins d'entretien.
Puis ça, ça aussi, c'est beau. Ça s'appelle Stéphane Andra.
Ah, c'est un beau nom, ça.
Oui, c'est un beau
Ouais.
nom.
Ah ouais, OK.
Ça, c'est la centaurée.
Celle-là, OK.
Mais là, elle n'était pas contente.
Ah non?
Ben, je l'ai déménagée là.
Je l'ai déménagé.
Non, elle n'était pas contente. Je sais pas si ça va donner l'année prochaine.
J'ai déménagé.
Mais là-bas, avant, elle était beaucoup plus heureuse. Elle était plus
Ouais.
Mais si, quand ils sont
Vous les attribuez des émotions?
je-
Je comprends peut-être. On sait pas.
Vrai, là.
Oui, je comprends, là, c'est...
Mais ça ne repousse pas l'année prochaine, mais on mettra d'autres choses.
Oui. Puis ça en va dans le sous-sol bientôt, je pense.
Ben, les plantes, il ne faut pas trop s'obstiner. Les rêves japonais, il est vraiment beau.
C'est japonais, ça?
Ouais.
Ouais, il est écœurant. Sérieusement, vous avez fait un beau mélange C'est multifleurs. Je vous appelle ça multicolore. Multifleurs.
En fait, pour les abeilles, il faut qu'il y ait des fleurs tout le temps.
Ouais.
Donc là, ce qui est beau, avancez un peu, là, de regarder dans le jardin, il y a des fleurs blanches.
Ouais, les blanches de même, comme celle-là.
Ça, c'est des cosmos. Plus loin, là,
OK, ouais.
ça, c'est la ciboulette à l'ail. Et à
OK.
ce temps-ci, il y a plein d'abeilles dessus.
Ah ouais,
Là,
les
il est trop
abeilles.
tard, les abeilles sont parties.
Sont...
C'est fini.
sont partis.
Et
Sont
les-
partis, hein?
Et les plantes qui sont à côté du garage, avec la petite fleur jaune,
Ouais.
ben, la fleur, elle ouvre toute la journée. Elle ouvre.
Ouais.
Là, les abeilles y vont. Et puis, à 5 heures, elle dit, c'est fini. Le restaurant est fermé.
C'est un... c'est un restaurant. C'est un restaurant.
C'est la première année que je remarque ça.
Un restaurant. J'ai bien aimé ça, comment vous l'avez
Non, mais
symbolisé
c'est bon.
un peu.
Les abeilles, ils s'en vont se coucher. C'est bonheur.
Ouais, mais
Surtout que c'est frais, les abeilles.
on ne sait pas comment qu'eux autres, les abeilles, ont l'expérience du temps, par exemple. Hein? On ne sait pas. Je me demande des fois, tu sais, au niveau petit qu'elles sont, les abeilles sont belles, puis ils nous donnent du miel, c'est sûr, là, mais j'en vois sur la montagne. Ils sont parmi les fées, la Mont-Royal, là, une abeille. Là. Des fois, j'ai trouvé le...
Les abeilles?
Oui, mais je trouve pas leur miel, par exemple. Je sais pas où qu'ils le cachent.
Il y a des plantes partout. Des fois, il y a des fleurs dans les arbres aussi.
Ouais.
Mais ceux qui travaillent le plus fort, c'est les bourdons.
Les bourdons, ils travaillent plus fort,
Ils
ceux-là.
travaillent plus tard. Puis, ben là, j'en vois pas. Là, il y en a tout le temps. D'habitude, ben, ça, non, ça, c'est
Une petite guêpe, non.
c'est une petite gueule. Ouais. Mais là, il commence à faire frais, hein?
Ouais, mais moi, ça me dérange pas, l'hiver,
Non,
quatre
les
saisons.
autres,
Eux autres, c'est différent.
Les autres, ça les dérange.
OK, ma chère, je vous laisse
Bonne
là-dessus.
soirée.
Moi, c'est Adrien, en passant, si jamais je vous revois.
Bonjour, Adrien. Moi, c'est Jocelyne.
Jocelyne, enchanté encore une fois. Ouais, vous avez... il y a... Ça, je vais l'enlever parce que quelqu'un qui a acheté ça dans votre jardin. Là. C'est pas moi, par exemple. Ah, il y a une... c'est comment qu'on appelle? C'est
Un escargot.
escargot, exactement. Mais la coquille, je veux dire. Il n'y a pas d'escargot dedans, c'est juste la coquille. Je l'enlève?
Il doit être dedans. Oui, oui.
OK, on va
On
la
l'a
laisser.
sauvé.
Ouais, c'est pas gentil de la part du monde qui l'ont fait ça. Jetez ça là chez vous.
OK, bye.
C'est pas moi, moi je fais pas ça bien. Vous aussi pareillement, pareillement. So yeah, I had a little chat because that's the great garden which I love, you know. I love that garden. Always when I pass there, it's... So that was French, of course. We love French here, you know. I was French Quebecer. So me as a Quebecer, Canadian, North American, I just love that garden. And I caught my auntie. She's not my aunt by that, but I consider people who live here like my great family. And here, this got to be fixed because somebody can one day. This is dangerous here, you know. Somebody can put the foot there and fall. So I gotta fix that, especially maybe my aunties or elderly or, you know, children like that. That's something which you gotta be filled. This one's nice too. So yeah, I love, of course, I don't want to go, you know, there's something which we got, there's something which we gotta get doing, you know. So now that I gotta get doing on the go and we gotta meditate as we go in the sun, that was a little bit of French, you know. And something which she explained to me, the flowers, and she was quite funny. Some humor I got, some humor I didn't, you know, because for a long time, some humor, just because of Asperger's, it's more hard, more difficult to understand, to process. More difficult to understand and to process this difference, of course, of the brain, you know, at the brain level. But she knows what it is, you know, and that's just the difference, you know, the difference how we perceive. Look at the little things there. Look at that, you know, and that is just a beautiful squirrel in the middle of the road. Gotta watch it. It's one way, but you gotta eat and go right in the middle. Okay, so see how my Aspie brain now functions? I see the car, I know that is at the distance is at risk, and I'm trying to calculate which way should be best for it to move so that white car there comes. It seems like it's gonna move, but the car stops, so it's the parking, and of course it's now proportionally to go on the other side. So this is a little bit of Aspiness one-on-one, you know, it's just how we are, and that garden is really amazing, and you know, I just love gardens and yellow flowers. I gotta do it on that, you know. So it's always now. It's always today, you know. I always live it to the fullest extent. You know, just like it could be my last day. I have hope for tomorrow because when I had COVID in 2020 February, you know, that's when I started living really like it was my last day, you know. Like it was my last day. I thought I was gonna die, you know. Thought I was gonna die of COVID. And in many ways, I always say I did die of COVID, you know. In many ways, I say I died during COVID, and there's nothing that I will to go back to. It's just I live carpe diem every day, and I live with this neurodivergence, which for years and years and years, 9 years ago, I think the first time was more than 9 years ago, and somebody had told me, said, hey, you know, you have Asperger's, you have HFA, high functioning autism, and I said, no, and I'm part of the unofficially diagnosed, the half of the population, 50% of the population who are unofficially diagnosed, you know, who are unofficially diagnosed, because only half are officially diagnosed, so I'm part of that half. But I've been diagnosed by people, citizens, several who have experience with the health care system, and with people who have autism, have worked with autistic people and people with Asperger's. So I've been diagnosed in many ways, semi-officially, I say, and my self-diagnosis and everything, my experiences in the past 11 years, because, you know, I have trouble remembering my life prior to February 2014. February 2014, you know, February 2014, you know, February 2014, that's a long time ago, more than 11 years, and it's going to be 11 years and 7 months, because February to March, April, May, June, July, August, September, wow, more than 11 years and a half ago. It's going to be February next year is going to be 12 years. So more than 11 years and a half, 11 years and 7 months ago. That's a long time ago. But my life prior to February 2014, I have trouble remembering, you know. Like retrograde amnesia, it's called. And I don't know if what was I doing? Was I a junkie? Was I drinking? Was I an alcoholic? I remember being attacked by surprise and hit my head on the concrete, was hit in the head a few times. Pop, was hit in the head a few times. Just gonna cross the street here. Was hit in the, always turn left and right, and was hit in the head a few times. Hit my head, was bloodied up, and fell, and I have to retrieve. I set a new deadline because I missed the September 11 deadline to go by October 21st of this year, and I'm still gonna propose again for the third time to somebody. If I propose, I'm gonna bite in it. But anyways, I remember living in that moldy place, you know, and that's it where I got. And it was a very moldy place where I used to live in. Côte de Neige, you know, it's Citoyen, Côte de Neige, and that was what it is with that, and that's Côte de Neige where we got, and that is something which we gotta get doing on that, you know, for the appellation. Gotta check it a little bit of that skate. Gotta get a little bit of that skate, man. Skates. I always admire, gotta get a little bit of that skating thing, and that's something which we have, of course, to get it on the go, and that's just something where we got to admire, you know. But these have to be fixed. If you check the potholes here, these are not so bad actually. But sometimes like this one, see? This one for the foot, if you're a runner. Yeah, some of them are not so bad, but you got a lot of work to do on the roads, man. A lot of work across North America, infrastructure too. That one looks even wider. See that one? Look at that. If you run there, you jog, yeah, that could be more dangerous. Anyway, so the remembrance party was February. So my life prior to February 2014. Before that, I have a high school diploma, you know. I lived a few miles that way. You're gonna see my old neighborhood once we interject. I just wanted to change a bit and check up a little bit of these beautiful gardens as well here. Yeah, look at those. That's what I love. A lot of those colors like that Napolitan ice cream. So, wherever I know I graduated. So I have a high school diploma. I have a high school, so I do have a high school diploma from 2003. And I have some reference letters. Supposedly I wanted to go to the Kingston Military College. Kingston Military College, you know. So that means that geopolitics was always part of my component and my special interests, and who knows how long I had Asperger's for forever, but some people are later in life, you know, like I'm mostly. And again, I'm part of those 50%ers, so this is nice too, the color. Or unofficially diagnosed, but of course, Asperger's and aspiness is not a mental illness. We're gonna get into it a bit, and just to finish on my going to retrieve the medical archives from the Jewish General Hospital, you know, going to retrieve the medical archives from the Jewish General Hospital soon, I guess by October 31st, and that is something which we have to do, and that is something which we gotta get doing on that drill, and that is something which we got, and of course that is just something which we got to do soon, I guess, sooner the better. I guess by October 31st is a deadline, you know, just like to propose again and to clean my room. I clean my room every day, but a big cleaning, I guess, in the month of Scorpio. So we're in a new 40-day rite from now, started is September 11th until October 22nd, you know, it's when the Scorpio month begins. So I don't know if I was before 2014, which was a long time ago, February 2014, before that time, if I was drinking, if I was doing hard drugs. I remember being attacked by surprise and other unspeakable deeds being committed against me, and I'm happy now, joyous, you know. I guess it's something which we gotta get doing with that, and that's something which we have, of course, to get to, and I'm drilling, and it's always now for me, you know, today. Although I have hope for tomorrow, it's always now today. It's always now, meaning that I lived to the fullest, although with, of course, the understanding and the rights balanced with obligations and duties, such as in the public, to walk on the right side, you know, to walk on the right side. All those duties and obligations which I have, and you have, and all of us have, vis-a-vis each other in the collective. Vis-a-vis each other in the collective, right? Because it's not just my rights and duties and responsibility, it is mine vis-a-vis all my fellow citizens of Montreal, because I'm in Montreal, Island of the Hockey HWK, but of course the 63, always for the 63. Sometimes memory comes back by, sometimes you lose it by trauma, and you gain it back by concussions or trauma, or whatever the case may be, or sometimes you lose memory if you drink too much. So I don't know if I was drinking for years, maybe I was an alcoholic a few years, and a junkie a few years doing drugs. I don't do drugs today, but look at that, 1, 2, 3, 4. Spotted the flag. When I spot the Canadian flag, I show mine, and don't ask me when I got it tatted up. Probably decades ago. Most of my information prior to February 2014 is from my journals, the journals that I kept. And some of them full of suffering and poverty, and I was depressed and suicidal, you know. For a few years, gotta salute the firefighters. If you hear the sirens, you gotta sing a little of that cadence, you know. Gotta sing a little bit of that cadence for the firefighters. Always gotta sing a little bit of that cadence. Gotta include the word L-O-V-E there, L-O-V-E. And here, of course, it's one way. See, there's one way. But what if they don't know and they turn by mistake? And what if the brake malfunctions and the citizen driver presses the accelerator instead of the brake? If the citizen presses the accelerator instead of the brake, that is something which we have, of course, to do. So if the citizen presses the accelerator instead of the brake, that, of course, happens to be in the situational awareness where it's a possible danger for us and for the other, right? So that's why I always say double prudence, double check. Because it's a possibility, right? The brakes malfunction, the citizen presses the accelerator instead of the brake. So those are all occurrences which can, in theory, occur, an impossibility happen. So I used to live a few kilometers, miles that way in an underground basement, small, tiny, moldy, full of mold. And I don't know since when I lived there, but it was an underground small basement. I didn't even have a bathtub it was like a small type of prison cell. I guess I served my time, and it was like tight, small prison cell, and it was full of mold, tiny, small prison cell, and that's where I got it on that, and that's where I got it on that prison cell, and it wasn't an official prison cell, but I always say I served my time, and I guess I was saved, by the goddess. The goddess of Jody the Assessist. God is blessed, and I guess ever since in the past 11 years plus, I saved some people by projection of the car. And just the other day, remember on the route, there were those two big rocks right in front, and the couple just came. They were 44 yards. You can check the video from Friday, and they were coming, and I moved them out, and I said maybe because they were holding hands, they wouldn't have seen the rocks, they would have tripped. So maybe to get good karma, balance, man. So that is that rock and roll, and always going to the mountain, always going by the river, always grateful, So that was a moldy place where I used to live there, and underground. I didn't have a kitchen. The kitchen was in my room, so it was tiny, small. It was like a prison cell, basically. I didn't even have a bathtub, and the bathroom was just a tiny, small shower. It was so small, basically like a prison cell. You can fit 2 people there. It was like a small prison cell, So that is just what it is, That's just what I live. And I thought I moved in 2016, but according to the papers, I moved in 2015, July. So it's been 10 years, and I'm grateful because I don't know if I would have stayed there, probably been, who knows, maybe dead or in jail or on the streets, or maybe I'm remember King, queen of the underworld. King, queen of the underworld. King, queen of the underworld. Or whatever. I don't know. I am for justice. I sing that rock and roll for my brothers and sisters who are brothers and sisters, boys and girls in blue. As I sing that rock and roll for my brothers and sisters who do their criminal rehabilitation, second and third chances. I always love that, to hear that. Second and third chances. People, when they get that second and third chances, I always get a little bit of that good rock and roll singing for them as well, because nobody's perfect. Not even myself. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. And certainly we have a lot of changes to be done. I guess I changed a lot. I don't will to go back to nothing, if I'm to put it like that. I died several times. I guess I'm on my 4th change. When I moved, and I was depressed and suicidal since about summer 2014. And before 2014, February 2014, I have trouble remembering. Before winter, spring 2014, end of winter 2014. Before February 2014, it's just blackout, just flashes, and it's hard. I don't know. Sometimes I guess here goes, and sometimes it just pulls back, That's why we gotta get it on that go, to get on the doing, and we gotta get it on that drill, and then we get back our memory sometimes, Sometimes we just gotta get it on that, So that is just something which we have to do, together, in the complementary, of course, the complementarity of all the things where we are now. So whatever the case may be. But I don't like violence, I just don't like violence myself. Something I just don't like it. It's just I lived it, And I am hyper vigilant, though. Hyper vigilant, So I guess they tried to take me out, I guess. But it was a surprise attack, Surprise cowardly attack, That's what happened. That's what happened in the metro, They didn't say let's go. Nothing like that, just a vicious surprise attack. And ever since then, that I survived. I guess they didn't finish, eh? They didn't finish. I'm gonna go in the sun a little bit more. So that is, both fellow citizens, cousins, whatever, or not, were smoking cigarettes, so I had to just turn myself, because last time I took a puff was 2017, when I crossed Canada coast to coast, that event in my life, you know. This is beautiful, 4 and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, perfect in symmetry, red, 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 my favorite color that I'm wearing. So of course, that was the situation, you know, and that is just where we are today and how we do tomorrow. And I feel like it's changing a bit because we go to the mountain often and just heading it towards the sun. I guess we could kind of do that. We'll get more sun, or tomorrow we'll get more sun. Anyway, so I was attacked by surprise, and vicious surprise attack, and I survived, and it was a vicious surprise attack. I fell, hit my head on the concrete, was hit in the head, and I don't know, and here I am, you know. Oh yeah, that sun feels good, and that's just something what we gotta be doing now for the drill. And yeah, I guess we're just gonna turn back, although I want to turn back for nothing today, carpe diem it every day, and I just, for the sun a little bit, it's to the mountain we're gonna go. It's Monday, we finished going Friday to the mountain, and to the mountain, ending the week, beginning the week to my second home, towards my second home, the mountain Mount Royal, and that's where we left to go. And I guess that's where we're gonna go, auctioning the hat, the underwear, everything that I'm wearing, you know, auctioning it for $1 million. For $1 million. Ah, that feels good. Give half to my anonymous friend, everything that I'm wearing, you know, the underwear, the clothes, the underwear, and the underwear, you know. The underwear. Turn your heads left and right when you cross the street, and those are the dynamics now as we go, and the dynamics where we are now, you know, here now. For the firefighters, butchers, train conductors, always admire when I see trucks, you know, how they're going for the left and the right and in the middle, something which we have to do all the time, and that's just something where we gotta get coagulated, you know, for the butchers, the bakers. So I was attacked by surprise, and that's how we're gonna get doing with that drill. Yeah, so that is just the life that we have today, you know. It's not the life that we had yesterday. And change, although, you know, as an ASPE, some change more than others, depends. As an individual ASPE, it requires more integration and absorption, I guess. And for me, it took years and years and years. Eh? For many years, I was told, you know, you're different, you have Asperger's, you see the world differently, your brain is different. That's how you have trouble maintaining friends, maintaining jobs long term. And I was depressed, suicidal. Between 2014, summer 2014 and summer 2014, and of course summer 2014 and summer 2017. So that was 3 years, I guess, of depressed and suicidal. And what got me out of depression was crossing Canada coast to coast. So I crossed Canada coast to coast in 2017 with my anonymous friend. I got the tickets, train tickets, and there were also bus. We went by bus to Vancouver, BC, August 20. So it's 8 years. I'm celebrating 8 years. It's a celebration, celebratory march. 8 years since I crossed Canada coast to coast. That event made me change my whole life, and Before that, I was depressed. I was suicidal. And I used to live over there. Here's kind of the streets where it divides my half, my new neighborhood and my old neighborhood. I used to live over there like that. And of course, that's something what you gotta get doing with that. So here, this was a laundromat, and that's what they were used to do the laundry on it. And here we are gonna pass by the side there and gotta get it on that go, you know. So yeah, this was a laundromat. I guess they had to get rid of it because it was maybe not safe anymore. Yeah, it was a laundromat there. I remember maybe 9 years ago, I came once. But now, in the past years, I had that laundry machine and both the machine and the dryer, the washer and the dryer. So I gotta thank my friend for it, my anonymous friend, who was my friend because of the money, because sometimes you see my past videos that you see where I used to do laundry right there in my old neighborhood, my new neighborhood, and I used to live. So this is kind of the street where it separates my new neighborhood, this side. So it's south, and my old neighborhood north. So it's north-south basically, and that's the sun is west-north a bit, and I'm going east, you know. I'm going east, so I'm going on the east. So I'm going east, and of course that is where we go on the east side and the west side. So that's where we are today in the convoluted aspects, of course, of civilizational complexes to divide the east, west, north, south, although it's an island. But just to situate yourself in the context of the geographical situation, where I lived was that way, which is north. So in 2017, August, I went to Vancouver, BC by bus. It was 3.5 day bus ride. And then in September, we came back and we went in 2017, same year, same summer, to these beauties. And 2017, we crossed Canada coast to coast in August and September. So we went, of course, to BC first, and then we went to Halifax, Nova Scotia in September. So around this time, I think we came back on the 20th of September. And it was at 25 hours and 44 minutes, Montreal to Halifax. It was 25 hours and 44 minutes. 25 hours and 44 minutes, you know. 25 hours and 44 minutes, you know. 25 hours and 44 minutes. That's more than a day, you know. That's more than a day. And when we came back, it was the same, 25 hours and some minutes. I don't know if it's exactly the same minutes, but I guess approximately involved. Maybe you gotta turn your heads. So that was crossing Canada, coast to coast, coast to coast. That made me establish a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians, and consider my fellow Canadians family ever since then. And I believe you can make tea with this, but I'm not sure. Tea with that, maybe. So that was an event. Please don't leave the garbage there. So basically, I crossed Canada coast to coast, and that was an event in my life that completely changed my whole life. Still turn left and right before you cross the street, because see, they can pass, so they can turn right. And of course, if they don't, of course, stop. It's always something which you gotta be checking out for yourself in all the individual prudences where you go now, to be it on the mark that you gotta cross the street safely, you know, safely. What is that? I always wonder a little bit about safety and prudence and how I relate to it, and pretty much the general dynamics of safety on the roads and on the street, on the pedestrian street are pretty much the same, are pretty much kind of parallel. Although there's different contingencies at different levels of the domain, but pretty much we're in the public domain. So that is just something where we have to make ourselves safe and make others safe, right? The interplay of my privileges and rights and your privileges and rights, because civilization is a privilege. So having crossed Canada coast to coast, that event really changed my whole life, because maybe if I wouldn't have, and that's the reason basically the motive why I am at the moment $10,000 in debt. I don't have credit cards. I do not have credit cards. I have a credit line to the RBC. So I'm about $10,000 in debt. But I don't regret, because if I wouldn't have been in debt, I would have not crossed Canada coast to coast. And maybe I would have taken my life, because I was depressed and suicidal. And that event just was so life-changing. That's why I have been and will advocate for a mass public-private partnership to mass finance, you know, imperial, what I call the imperial tourism public-private partnership support and act, to be credited every season, 4 days, every season to be credited 4 days. 4 days to be credited. Beautiful flowers there, aren't they just gorgeous? Yeah, beautiful season. Beautiful flowers there, look at those in the garden. To be credited, of course, in the consequential prudence and the aspects of the things is to be credited 4 days every season. So 4 times 4 for those who are 16 and over. 4 times 4, that's 16. So basically to be credited tourist activities. Tourism. To cross coast to coast, ocean to ocean. To cross coast to coast, ocean to ocean, basically. To cross across Canada, you know, to make sure and to establish a strong esprit de corps. And I always wonder all these things which are here that are part of our civilizational complex. Send some loving to the ambulance driver, first responders, truckers, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, electricians, the plumbers. And this I love here. We should have it across the 63 public-private partnership integration, and that's a webcam. I think it's a webcam. It's related to the web, and you see those 4 little antennas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess that's for the volume and the conversations. So both conversations, the audio, and the webcam. I believe by flock, public-private partnership across Canada, United States, we should have them integrated, because now I just read in the paper that a lot of 12,000, thousands, of course, of our thousands, tens of thousands of our webcams are, of course, compromised, potentially compromised by China. I read just in an article, and that's, of course, something which, of course, we have to appellate in the industrialness of our crossing here. I'm not going to go into my own neighborhood, but what I will cross, I'm just going to cross to the side and then go to the mountain, but of course I will to cross on the other side because it's more sunny. So basically what I'm going to do with that is, of course, crossing on the more sunny side of the appellation of the industriousness, and that is just something where we have to be doing now. You gotta think about that truck. What is it carrying? I know it's going north. I don't know what's carrying. Maybe it's, I see the Canadian and the US flag. Maybe it's carrying, of course, so much goods, different goods, and of course different goods, which of course have to be appellated, of course, on the domain name. But of course those are carrying goods. Maybe they're carrying bacon, maybe they're carrying lettuce, maybe they're carrying cheese, bacon, lettuce, all sorts of good, cheese. Gotta watch it here. Can you cross the street on the go? Always on the side of the things there. So all the appellations, well, we have, of course, the industrialness to be doing. How are you guys doing?
I don't want to eat.
I'm broke.
Okay, that's okay.
I'm broke, man. I don't have no money. I wish I would.
There's one told me sing.
Yeah, I'm broke.
I'm real broke. There's one told me sing.
I'm broke, man.
That's okay. Next time.
I will give you, but I'm broke.
Next time I'll get on.
Yeah, next time, man. How you guys doing? Everything's okay? I'm broke, brother.
Hello.
Take care, man. Stay out of trouble. Stay safe. Somebody gotta love them also, you know. That's what I gotta be doing, man. So that's my own neighborhood right here where they are. Nothing that I will to go back to, but it's something which we, of course, we have to be doing now. And you know, charity, man. All those brothers and sisters who are in this situation, we don't know. We don't know their situation, you know. Who knows the suffering, the struggles, the pain, you know. I surely had my share. So for my brothers and sisters who got to get that rehabilitation, get their second chances. And I don't like violence, you know, and I just don't like violence. And if I see it, I'm going to say, hey, stop it, stop it, stop it. And see, they're hugging, that's good. Hug like you never hugged before is the main message. You got the message there. Just clean after yourselves, you know. I would just instruct them and tell them, please, just clean, don't leave garbage. And just clean after yourselves, you know, don't leave garbage. And we're going to try to rehabilitate, and our empire, you know, is going to be a benevolent one. It's going to be second, third chances, fourth chances, which we got to give, of course, to... And it's good to see them hugging, you know, they got to get a little bit of hug. And it's not all about the money. I wish I would. I'm broke. I really am broke. But I guess we got to sometimes get the support intellectually and academically. And you do your 360 when you see the firefighter. Slow down, slow down, slow down. Gotta do the 360, turn left and right, and then do 360 left and right when you hear the ambulances and gotta get out of the way. See, now I'm gonna stop. I'm supposed to cross now, but I will stop, and you gotta wait and you gotta get out of the way and do 360. 180 to the left, 180 to the right. You know the cadence? We love our firefighters, love our firefighters, love our firefighters. Get back home and get back safe, love our firefighters. Whenever you hear the song, we gotta stop and we gotta sing the cadence. Love our firefighters, love our firefighters. Get back home, that's safe. Give them a hug and a massage. We love our firefighters. And see now, of course, they're crossing east and west and north and south. And my brothers and sisters there, you know, we're doing collage. They're homeless or they're struggling financially. A lot of people, I wish I would have been a billionaire. I would go hoodie up. If I would have been a billionaire, I would have go taken 10% across the 63 and just with a hoodie on. Just dirty up hoodie, I would have given some money. I said, this is your second chance. Get a house for a year. This is your chance to stop the alcohol, to stop the drugs. And this is your chance for rehabilitation. This is your chance for rehabilitation. Because I don't know, maybe they suffered a lot. Maybe some of them XYZ, you know, a lot of victims of abuse, of scars, and all sorts of problems which my brothers and sisters had, you know, who are ending in that situation. But what I love to see, as I have seen my own rehabilitation, you know, because I used to live over there. Underground moldy basement. It was tiny small moldy basement. And of course, that tiny small moldy basement, I always say I died moving, and I died several times, as I died during COVID. And you know, that's what Asperger's me. I would say practically, of course, to get around the practical, to help. And of course, now to make a meditation that all the truckers that are going east, west, north, south, there's hundreds of trucks, maybe thousands carrying lettuce, romaine, and some of that backpack, what I have, of course, in the backpack also comes from a truck who, of course, the truckers transport all our goods. Got to salute them across the 63. Maybe they're tired, they need some loving, maybe they're more moody than I was this morning and yesterday. But all that's something which, of course, we have to translucidly be about in all the conformity where we are now. And that's just something what we got to be doing on the side of the things, where we got the perimeter, and they're, of course, always on the side and doing a little bit of that loving here as we're going to go towards the sun. But just because I enter my own neighborhood doesn't mean that I will to return to my, nothing that I will to go back to, you know. I just wished I would have had money, and I said, hey, if I would have been a billionaire. See that one's also, see the 4 antennas, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we got to get thousands and thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands more like this, but we got to make it Canadian, United States, NATO countries produce for safety and security, because we got contingencies now. Of course, my geopolitics centers, because we got Russia and China, you know, which we've involved ourselves militarily. And my brothers and sisters, please don't leave that trash there. Clean it. I don't have my gloves. Next time I'll take them, but maybe they're gonna recycle that. So yeah, so because those antennas and that was for the audio and the camera. So I just learned that supposedly 12,000 cameras, webcams across both Canada and the United States, from what I know, are potentially security threats because they're China government, partially Chinese government operated. So in other words, massive potential espionage from the North American Collective. And you know how it is for the 63? All our empire, come and let it be, also to rehabilitate my brothers and sisters who are there in the financial situation where they are. And some of them, of course, have been to a lot of suffering, and they suffer, and a lot of us suffer it. And you know, it's something which we gotta be attentive to if we can. And of course, to the willing, of course, you have to will. And if I would have been a billionaire, maybe I would have said, hey, how about I get you a building, you clean yourselves up, I employ you, you drink once in a while, you want to drink, but you drink in moderation. And I would have offered them some rehabilitation, you know, some rehabilitation. I said, hey, You guys are, I didn't count on one side and one side. I guess they were maybe 11. I know your relationships. You get an apartment each, or you want to join an apartment each. You get that building. Let's say I would have bought a building and say here, I'm gonna pass every week. If I'm not in the city, if I'm not in Montreal, I'm not gonna pass. But every week, I'm doing an inspection. Every week, I'm doing an inspection. You know, made that deal. You're gonna have some work. You're gonna have some work. We're gonna have you delivering some pamphlets or whatever the case. I would have given an option. You know, given an option, because that's what capital money is to be done with. You know, if now you're holding the capital and the money, that's not good. You know, that's not good. That's why my DRT best. So before I go into the DRT and other geopolitical matters, I will of course to discuss the propositions and of course to finalize on Asperger's. It's to just go a few minutes on Asperger's, because I didn't dedicate a few minutes like I usually dedicate 11 minutes, 20 minutes on Asperger's and my fellow neurodivergent community. So I guess I'm gonna do it now. So we have to begin where we state that it's not a mental illness, as I am here, and it's not an illness, it's not a disease, and it's not negative, it's not bad, it's not malicious, it's not evil, right? Aspiness and people with Aspies, we're different, but we're not evil, we're not malicious, we're not bad, we're just different, and we have our brains which are different, and so we see the world differently, because at the brain level there's mutations. At the microscopic level, it's not protruding on the outside of the brain. Think about it as transistors, as nano, you know, nano, the micro, like microbes, bacteria, microbes. Of course, at the microscopic level, the brain is so complex, it has these mutations, right? And here as I enter my own neighborhood, I have already entered it. I used to live over there, in the basement where I said. I used to live over there, turn your heads left or right. Although it's a one-way, well, actually this is not a one-way, but still turn your heads, you know, still turn your heads. So of course, when you hear the ambulance, do the 180 to the left, 180 to the right. If there's firefighters, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down. We love our firefighters, get them back down home safe. Firefighters of the empire, We love our firefighters, get them back down home, that's safe. Love our firefighters, we love that home, they got us safe. We love our firefighters, get them back that home and safe. Clap, clap, clap. I love our firefighters, gotta see. Love our firefighters, gotta be. So do the 180. Well, that's the fourth truck already. I counted 2 before. 1, 2 passed before. Now this is the fourth. This is the fourth. We love our firefighters. We love our firefighters. Get them back and home and safe. So 100 degrees to the left in the car when you're driving. 100 degrees to the right. And slow down, slow down, slow down. Your car, $1 million, is not that important as the body. As the body of fellow citizens. Your car, $44 million car, or, you know, is the body. So slow down, slow down, slow down, and gotta slow down, you know, for the left and the right, and that's what it is with that, and gotta slow down, slow down, slow down, and for the firefighters, we gotta get on that slow. So 180 to the left, 180 to the right, that will comprise exactly 180 plus 180, that's 360. So that's a full circle. So your car or somebody's life is now worth $1 million car. Of course, a beautiful flowers there. So just do the 180 to the left, to the right, and slow down. Make sure, you know, even if you're just walking the streets like my fellow citizens, just do the 180 left, stretch a bit. It's good for you. You stretch your neck, you know. Just those things which you have, of course, to be. You turn your left, you turn your right, and that's what you gotta be doing, you know, with that. So that is something which you gotta be protruded. So turn left and turn right, and that's what we gotta be doing with that. When you hear the firefighters, gotta give it for them, and that's what we gotta get doing, you know. they get back home safe, that's what's important. If not, that's what's important for that, and that's what we gotta get doing with that. So the proposition is all the information which we have now to be it. That's all we got, and that's all we gotta get doing. That's what it is, and that's what we gotta get doing with that, and that's how we gotta get doing on the drill and all the things which we have, of course, to get doing, to the situational complexes which we are now, to get the proposition that we are a community which we have, of course, to fundamentally be involved in the appellations where we have, of course, to do. So, of course, that is to turn your heads left or right. Super important, super important. Just like here. Because sometimes the cars come way too fast. So yeah, you get back home safe, and that's it with that, and that's what we got, man. Safety, prudence for all, and getting in the side of the things where we are now, and that is just the collective, man, and the individual, the empire, for the children, for the youth. That's just something which we have, of course, to be, and to, of course, be mindful of the firefighters. We gotta sing them some cadence, sing them some rock and roll as I can, because I'm an artist, athlete, philosopher, independent geopolitical theoretical analyst, theorist, and thinker. Strategy is always for the North American collective, of course, always a mystic. Born in past lives, previous incarnations, sometimes a man, a woman, a woman, a man, a man, a woman, a man, a woman, a woman, a man. You get that 50-50 now. I was born a man, a woman, a woman, man, man, a woman, woman, man, man, a woman, woman, man, man, a woman, woman, man. Was the priestess of Pythia who orated the great Rethria to Lycurgus. Was the priestess who orated the great Rethria to Lycurgus. Was the priestess who orated the great Rethria to Lycurgus. Was the priestess who orated the great Rethria to Lycurgus, and was born in the USA 3 times. Post 76, once as a woman, twice as a man, served in the same United States Armed Forces. 2 different times, 2 different wars. I served in 2 different wars, 156 years apart. The wars were 156 years apart. Just read Through a Glass Darkly. One of my favorite poems is Through a Glass Darkly by George Patton. Through a Glass Darkly by George Patton, and that's just something which we have, of course, to compromise with. I guess not compromise, but contangle with, commingle with that poem, and it's a good, very good poem. It feels on the backpack now because of the weight, so I always get a little bit of that extra. So I don't think back to what I said before, I saw 4 firefighter in trucks, 4 firefighting trucks. I never seen like 4. I saw 2, 3, but 4 going choo 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 choo. 4 of them, wow. 4 trucks, 4 firefighters. If you check on the video, I'm gonna double check when I post it, but that was it. 4. I saw 1, then the second one passed, then the third one, and then the final 4th one. Maybe there was more, but 4 trucks, 4 firefighting trucks. There's 1, right? 2, 3, 4. I counted 4. Double check. So Through a Glass Darkly, one of my favorite poems by George Patton. George Patton's Through a Glass Darkly discusses reincarnation, discusses reincarnations. So that was discussing reincarnation, is that poem where he discusses when he served in different armies across the world, different empires, Roman Empire, Parthian, Carthaginians, Persian, Babylonian. He discussed his reincarnation. So George Patton believed in reincarnation. Just like I do, but George Patton, But George Patton did not mention that he was born as a woman also. And a matter of fact, 2,600 or so years ago, George Patton was my wife, but I was also his wife once in a previous incarnation. So once I was his wife, once he was mine. and one's husband and wife, husband, vice versa. George Patton, the general of the Second World War, the Third Army. So now I'm gonna just slang a little bit of rock and roll and with Asperger's. So what Asperger's is not, it is not an illness, right? Autism, generally, it's not an illness. You can have more severe manifestation where some Aspies, as individuals, we also have a diversity within our community, which is a tiny, small fraction of the population. Beautiful flowers there. So only half of the Asperger population, I like those, how they're put 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, just like the four fire trucks. They're kind of equal, kind of like how they're shaped, like kind of they put in a kind of geometrical type of pattern. Here's a pattern to their kind of like a swirling rocks. This is a beautiful one also. So yeah, Asperger's, people with Aspies like myself, although only half are officially diagnosed, and even with half is about 0.44 of the population, so doubling, because it's only 50%, half of the Aspie population is officially diagnosed. So in reality, it's double, right? If it's only half, 50% is reality, you got to times the population times 2. So that means that 0.44 double, that means that it is 0.88. So it's still less than 1%. Even if you double it, it's still less than 1%. It's still less than 1% though. I always love when I see people working out, training, exercising. It is something, of course, that I do myself, and I engage in now. I'm working out, working, dancing, art, and sometimes we take on different sides to get to the mountain, and sometimes we get on the side of that, beautiful flowers mixed with the plants there. Quite cool. So Asperger's is not a mental illness, and it's where we have to draw the line as individual Aspies, as myself, as the community. We have to draw the line when we are categorized as malicious, as evil, as bad, as negative. So it's not bad, it's not evil, it's not malicious, it's not negative. It's not evil, it's not bad, it's not malicious, it's not negative. It's not bad, it's not evil, it's not malicious, it's not negative. And it's not evil, bad, malicious, negative. Right? So it's not bad, evil, or malicious. So that has to be consequently forgotten about, of course, in the dimensions where you mention it. Of course, and you mention it, of course, in the dimensions where we are now involved in all the conflagrations and all the situational awareness of knowing what Asperger's is and what Asperger's is not, for all the domain where we are now. Beautiful white flowers here. Quite beautiful. So what Asperger's is not and what Asperger's is. And of course, quantifying, qualifying Asperger's or HFA or any autism as bad, evil, or negative, or malicious, it has to be rejected. It has to be categorically rejected. And because it's not. Yes, we can have difficulties in certain things. We can seem, an Aspie can seem like it doesn't have empathy or compassion, but it's not that. We show empathy and compassion by action. By action, if we can, if I can, so it's just solutions mostly. Our brain has these differences, so we are compassionate and empathetic, but mostly by action, not necessarily by verbosities, by consoling verbally, right, necessarily, but by offering something if we can, of course, if we can, because if we can't, then we won't. And the way we communicate and converse sometimes is more awkward and bizarre and different and quite outright strange it can be, and many Aspies and myself have got to apologize to my anonymous friend because she was very patient, because we tend to communicate differently, right? So cutting off, but it's not that we mean to cut people off, cutting people off. It's not that we mean to cut people off. We don't mean to cut people off. It's not that we mean to. It's just that's how we communicate. Sometimes the interactive manner is, and we tend to be discussing. Sometimes it's hard for Aspies to read social cues. Look at that helicopter, chopper. Now my Aspie brain, see how it works? I'm trying to discern the speed. I see that it's kind of reddish. My favorite color right above me, but let's see where it's headed. It's headed, of course, south, maybe. Yeah, for sure it's heading south. It looks like it's heading southeast. It seems like the speed is quite steady, maybe even slightly increasing, but it seems like the speed is steady. And because I'm different and because of this Asperger's, look at that beauty. It's not just gorgeous. Now I'm trying to figure out the trajectory. I see that it's kind of looping a bit towards the east now, no longer going quite south. But I'm trying, of course, to calculate its speed. And if I would be in communication with the helicopter driver, I'll probably, because of the distance and the altitude, so I would have to know the altitude. So the altitude is how high it is. The helicopter's at a certain height in elevation, altitude. So based on the altitude, you would kind of be able to figure out by how fast it goes. Of course, it's hard to tell how fast it goes, but one would be able to really kind of know. One will be able, of course, to kind of know, you know. So that is just what it is with that. To kind of know the distance. By the distance, the altitude that is traveling, you would kind of be able to have a mathematical guess. It would be not necessarily accurate on the dot, on the point, but there could be some level of accuracy that you can figure out, that one can discern by the speed. So that is maybe just showing right direct in this point event in my life on Monday, September 15, how my brain is different. And maybe with a fellow Aspie, we would have probably discussed for, if not maybe hours, about the potential speed of the helicopter by calculating in a few seconds that we saw. I guess it was almost 45 seconds, more than 44 seconds that I counted since I started noticing it. And this is a 9+. Look at that flower. That just quadruples my smile. I got a flower. Wow. I just love it. Wow, this is just a garden. A nice spot. Both Quebec and Canada, but this is just wow. Wow. Really a 9+. I'm so glad I took this turn here, and especially this one. So nice. Wow, that is super nice. Smells so good. It's like reddish and orangey and yellowish, and wow, what a beautiful flowers here. You know, you gotta get with that Canada on the go, but that's just something which we have to do, you know, in the categorization of all the appellations where we are now, to know it. And beautiful. Wow, what a garden. Good job. That one has to be applauded, lauded, you know, because gardens like that, they're really special, and just really a joy for me just here on four-letter word street, Myra, M-I-R-A-M-I, Myra. Interesting, that's 4 letters and 4 rocks there put in order, and 4 firefighting trucks. So Asperger's is a neurological mental divergent condition. And this neurological mental divergent condition makes us, of course, predisposed to this special interest. And of course, this special interest is something which we have, of course, category, of course, to be in the situation where we are now. You know, because we also have things which are great, excellent, super good, very, very good. But unfortunately, we have certain things that are very different and very difficult for Aspies, because we are different, and this difference sometimes impedes maintaining friendships, long-term friends, impedes long-term employment, and also is prone to isolation, self-harm, bullying, and thus de facto also self-harm and the high depression and suicidal rates. So we also have problems. And no, not all Aspies are masters of computer science geniuses. About 20%, 1/5, which is more than the proportion of the neurotypicals. And keep in mind that we're less than 1% of the population, and you are the 99%, with which I and all Aspies, and by de facto people with autism, have to build bridges. I go to the 4 categories of bridges which we have to build: small bridges, medium-sized bridges, large bridges, or extra large bridges. So within those 4 categories, you can get a little bit of those 4 categories now. So small bridges, medium-sized bridges, large bridges, or extra large bridges. So 4 categories: small bridges, medium-sized bridges, large bridges, or extra large bridges. Those are just 4 categories, which are general categories. I said just like you order a coffee. Your last one? No. That's what it is with that, and that's just what we have to do, you know, in the situations where we are now. So that, I call him uncle because I call you all in a great family like names, cousins and uncles and aunties, and brothers and sisters here throughout the collective. But I think a few months ago I spoke with him, or last year, and we had some fun with that, and there's a little bit of that fun with that, to be doing like that, and there's just something which we gotta appellate. And of course having all that fun, and that fun was the meditation aspect. On that meditative aspect where we got on that integral aspect of the society, you know, to be now inside, and said, "Hey, your last one?" And he said, "No." Cigarette. Last time I smoked was a few puffs when I crossed Canada coast to coast. It was night in the evening. We traded a cigarettes. But so that's, and I wasn't smoking before. I don't know if before February 2014, because my memories black out before February 14. My memories black out before February 14. So before February 14, I have trouble remembering my life. But I don't know before that if I was smoking, if I wasn't. But at least in the past 11 years, I haven't. I wasn't. And when I smoked a bit was due to, I took a few puffs when I went on the trip. Look at that beautiful sunset. So when I went on that trip, that was kind of my last smoke. Yeah. So that was a long time ago. But I don't like smelling it secondhand. It's just I get like allergic reactions. Not an allergic reaction, but I start coughing when I get too close, you know, to cigarette smoke. It just doesn't secondhand when somebody smokes cigarettes. Not cannabis though. So not cannabis. Let's see. Oh yeah, look at that. Yeah. Oh wow, look at that sunset. The sun is shining and rising, eh? Look at that beautiful sunset. So glad I took the turn here so I could see the sunset and the beautiful flowers there. And so back to Asperger's again, ASPI, autistics, we're HFAs, high functioning. So it's not a disease, it's not a mental illness, and the problem is we have some problems, and because sometimes how we communicate, and because we have these special interests, of course, preoccupy our whole routine, you know, preoccupy our daily life and life activities, you know. So we have, of course, the life of the activities which are preoccupied, of course, to go, and that is just something which I gotta see with that, you know. Just gotta get it on that goal, you know, for the left and the right and all those in the middle, in between. Look at that. That's nice. Beautiful, man. Beautiful sunset. Sun is shining and sun is rising now. Every second there's a sunset and a sunrise, right? Every second. So we're different. We have this difference, but it's not bad, evil, negative, or malicious. And it's not evil, but it's different. And this difference sometimes can be problematic in order for us to build bridges, whether we build small bridges, medium-sized bridges, large bridges, or extra large. Those 4 categories are, of course, just like when you order coffee or fry. You might order a small fry or coffee, a medium coffee or fry, a large coffee or fries, the edible fries, or an extra large coffee or fry.
I think that's what I'm
So that's just Asperger's, you know. That's beautiful. Look at that. Isn't that nice? Wow, look at that. That's so nice. That's super nice. As you can see the mountain, wow. One of the best beautiful sunsets in last Monday of the summer. Last Monday of the summer. Sing some rock and roll, sunset, sunrises as I go. Gotta see it left to right, so you see it left to right for the paradise. For the island of the hawk, that you know we got a spark for the island of the hawk. That you know we black and white and rainbow with the sun and the moon, gotta shine it. For the truckers, for the bakers, for the butchers, for the doctors, for the train conductors, I gotta sing it as I go. Rock and roll is all I know. I gotta sing it as I go. Rock and roll is as I know. Dancing on steel toes, farmers, butchers, bakers, nurses, those in the daycares changing diapers. The construction workers help build the forgotten goddess, goddess temple. She don't need my temple, sun is rising, sun is setting. She's got those kisses, double trouble. She's got those kisses, double trouble. That's the flag spotted, so I gotta show mine on the flesh with goddess. Goddess, what about it? When I will to build the 4, I'm going to be discussing the building of the 4. I admire construction workers, they rock and roll, they build it on the steel toes, cranes, and blood, sweat, and tears sometimes, eh? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh yeah, beautiful sun. So now we're going to the mountain. I'm even more happy now, you know, and hey, construction workers, rock and roll, eh? And Aspies, the problem is, so I'm going to try to finish now on Asperger. So again, we draw the line when Aspies were characterized as evil, bad, negative, malicious. None of that. We are just different. And yes, in Aspies, we can be intense, concentrated, super concentrated, super dedicated, super energetic, super engaged in certain things. When we do, we can seem super focused, super engaged, super concentrated, super in it. You know, we have these routines, eh? Some aspects are more inflexible than others. I really don't mind change because I changed a lot, but of course, to a certain degree, I have to keep a certain level of my routines. Because even today, I was supposed, of course, to leave earlier, but because of so many geopolitical events globally, and look at that, that's danger zones here. See how big it is? Look. That's a big pothole, look at that. That's the wheel goes in there. The wheel goes in there, that's a danger zone right there. If the wheel gets in, see? Especially by the bike. It's so big. Huge pothole. Sometimes I see it and that's dangerous, especially somebody with a bike, so we gotta fill that up with a city. I guess I'm gonna write to the city because it's been like that for a few weeks. So I can see, I guess I can cross here. So it's at the corner of, I just want to see at the corner where it's at. Or maybe we're gonna cross on the other street and this on the corner, but this is a one-way, so yeah. So it's on Victoria actually. It's on Victoria, so this is Victoria and this is Boulevard, right? So corner of Victoria, right after the Boulevard. So it's on the Boulevard, right before Victoria, going from the west, coming from the west. That's how I describe it. See, we're on Victoria Street. Victoria is a long street. Even when you go down in my own neighborhood, I'm not in my own neighborhood now. Now we're in Westmount. We switch neighborhoods. So now we're in Westmount. Now we're in Westmount. But that's a big pothole that gotta be fixed. We got a lot of work to do. I'm all about work, you know. There's just something which of course I am about. Work is something which I work independently, and I'm very proud in my artistic and more so in my geopolitical work, which is quite timely, and paradoxically, it is quite unique and timely for today, 2025. I'm gonna get into it, but suffice it to know before I introduce, because I'm gonna introduce it, I predicted what's happening now, in 2019. Not necessarily because I'm a prophet or a seer, and of course I am a mystic, but paradoxically because of my Asperger's, this neurological mental divergent condition of the brain, that I was able to predict the geopolitical situation in a general manner, what's happening now, and of course in the integral part of all our aspects where we are now, to be of course categorized in all the situational where we are now, to be of course involved in all the dynamic where we are now. You know, so all the dynamic where we are now and all the situation where we gotta be doing now and all the situations where we have involved ourselves with are the dynamics of all the relations which have concluded with this international crisis where we now live in. So before I go into that, I'm just going to finalize on Asperger's. So it's not a disease, it's not a mental illness. Sometimes we have these characteristics. I don't even use the word symptom because symptom is for an illness. We have these characteristics and traits such as repeating words 2-3 times. Words, phrases, and echolalia. Echolalia, for example, can be another one. That means repeating verbatim per verbatim. That's Latin for word, or a sentence or a phrase that somebody might say or utter. Somebody might utter a phrase or a sentence and we might repeat it word for word, verbatim per verbatim. So word for word, we might repeat it. Just gonna make sure. It's gonna go parking. Coming out. Wanted to make sure, wasn't sure, that we gotta get doing and we gotta get now. So gotta get prudence, prudence with the car. I wasn't sure if it just took the wrong way and it's going out of there or it's not. I think maybe just wanted to make sure that I was seen before I go in front of the car and then press the accelerator and it advances towards my body. And this is another one there. Not a pothole. So that is where we are today. As an Aspie who's financially stressed, but about 3.5 years ago, because I've been diagnosed and told by several citizens who have experience with autistic people and Aspies and neurodivergence, and that I was told that I have this neurological mental divergent condition, which is known as Asperger's HFA. But it started about 9 years ago. 9 years ago. So I didn't want to accept it, I didn't want to accept it. I said, no. I know. But about 3.5 years ago, during COVID, I, of course, read information about it. And I said, hey, yes, I have these characteristics, not symptoms again. And I lose jobs, I lose friends, and I live through isolation. I'm different. I can be weird, awkward, eccentric, and I have these routines and special interests, aka obsessive interests, which preoccupy most of my routines and daily habits. Daily study, learning geopolitics for years and years and years and years, and working independently, parallel. A lot of Aspies have to be supported in their special interests because it brings a lot of joy, and a lot of Aspies in those special interests, paradoxically, because in the Aspie population there's a very high dropout rate, and I have a high school diploma, but I have some college. I dropped out of college, I guess. I just don't remember high school and college. My life prior to 2014, remember, is a mystery, but things such as mathematical knowledge, which is, I'm above average. I'm good with numbers and calculations, subtractions, fractions, and percentages. Just percentages is something it's a love that's LOVE with, as an Aspie type of love, But it's a love nonetheless. I could calculate percentages every day. For example, even now I'm trying to calculate a percentage, of course, of the population who take the bus compared to the population, the ratio of the population that I've seen in cars. But of course, it's when? Is it daily? Is it hourly? Because it changes, eh? What do I mean by that? Do I mean from only rush hour or from a certain hour? Then we have to define the parameters, because the definition of the parameters today is Monday. So Monday is not the same as Saturday or a Sunday, right? So Monday is different. It's every day of the week. See, maybe I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I saw blurred a bit because I was prescribed some glasses, but there were 8 in there. So that means if there are 8 plus the driver, that means potentially 8 cars, depending how many people are in the car. But let's say just the drivers, that means 8 ratio just here on this street. But we have to segment it. So statistics I'm discussing. So sometimes I walk, I march, and I do these things in my brain, just I guess with a fellow Aspie, we would just be at it marching for 4 hours, and we would just be doing this and calculating mathematical perhaps expenses by how much it costs their daily commute or how much gas that car consumes per 100 kilometers, because some Aspies are good at knowing cars, eh? Some Aspies, special interests vary. So my special interests are the Holy Trinity, which I have and which I do daily. It's sports and fitness. Dancing is my favorite sport. rock and roll, and geopolitics. So geopolitics, sports and fitness, rock and roll 24/7. Geopolitics, sports and fitness, rock and roll 24/7. And geopolitical events, they transpire every moment, every day, every hour. There's a new geopolitical events because we have time zones, right? So when it's night here, when it's past midnight, that's another big pothole there. That's also dangerous. That one also. So when it's midnight here, somewhere in Asia, China, Japan, Australia, Singapore, Jakarta, Indonesia, they're having their mornings, right? So it's the time zone sequence. Well, actually, in Japan, it's more afternoon. At midnight here, it's morning starting to be in Russia, towards Moscow, and then you have Eastern Europe and Germany, France, Italy, you know. It's kind of like 6 hours and 7 hour difference time zones. So it's +6 or +7. So there will be more sun, more morning towards their side of the world. It's more noon in Australia and China because it's 12, 13 hour differences in Japan, China, Australia, South and North Korea, and Indonesia, and of course Thailand and Burma, Myanmar, Burma, Nepal, and India. You know. There's like 11, 12, 13 hours, their time zones. So them it will be like 11, 12 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And they could have major events when we're sleeping here, you know. So geopolitics, just like money never sleeps. Geopolitics, just like money never sleeps. And we don't, not too much aware of it, but just like this, there's always a sunrise and a sunset. Right, there's always a sunrise and a sunset. There was always a sunrise and a sunset. A sunrise and a sunset. So that is, of course, the categories where we are now to be involved with in all the domain where we are now to be knowing or to not know or to be aware of these on a different level at a different time of the day. So now when I'm walking, of course, it is something that's happening in the world. What's happening in the world now is something that's happening geopolitically. On a level, small level, medium-sized level, large level, or extra large. Extra large would be, of course, more global development, you know, such as China invading Taiwan. The ROC, Republic of China, is known as Taiwan, and the PRC, People's Republic of China, is mainland China. So it's kind of like two Chinas, but officially they both have Zhuangzhou in the China name. China, right? So it's Asperger's is a neurological mental divergent condition. There's no medication, there's no known cause. Partly hereditary, or biologically, that is genetic factors, or environmental. It's inconclusive, and it's not a disease because you cannot medicate it. Yes, if an Aspie is depressed or suicidal, then an Aspie can take medication, but to treat it's not a disease. So you can't treat Asperger's. An Aspie like myself, I have to work on the characteristics to know and be aware that certain things don't. Sometimes Aspies were very direct and straightforward. So sometimes Aspies were direct and straightforward, you know. Sometimes Aspies were direct and straightforward, and so that's something which we can be. Not that we mean to offend, but we can offend, you know. But we can offend, but we don't mean to necessarily offend. And I wanted to cross on the other side because I want to get close to that beautiful, beautiful forest. No, it's not really a forest, but it's forested garden because this is like a forest on the mountain. So here we are on Westmount, one of the 3 peaks of the Mountain Mount Royal. My second home is Westmount. And I love this garden here. It looks like Napolitan, makes me think, of course, of ice cream. Napolitan ice cream. You know, it has 4 layers. It's called Napolitan, and it's 4-layered ice cream. It kind of looks like this. And I just love the colors here. This garden is so nice. I just love the garden. Wow. Look at that. Just amazing. I wish I could give my anonymous friend a house here, or I saw her house special. I would have bought it if I would have had the money. Right by the river. It had even a weeping willow. Dragon. We need, across the 63, we need that dragon like that. dragon vacations to a court for the empire. Pledge your allegiance to our family, and that's something which, of course, my anonymous friend would love to have. And on the by the river, you see it in my old video. Maybe tomorrow we'll go by the river and you'll see it again. But you see it in my video from last week. It's a house right by the river. It has a little bit of a not too big, but a little personal beach, and it has a weeping willow. And that would be perfect. I would have gotten that. It's for sale. If I would have had money, I would have gotten that from my anonymous friend, who, thank you, gifted me 2 books on autism and have several chapters on specifically on Asperger's. And one book was loaned 4 times. There's a library loan 4 times from the library called, and I recommend to all. This was a great book. Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome is a book which I strongly recommend to both neurotypicals and neurodivergents in order, of course, to concord and learn myself. I learned many vulnerabilities, of course, how myself am vulnerable and how many aspects we can be vulnerable, because we're different in certain things we just don't know. We just don't know certain things, and we have, of course, the intentions, of course, of not knowing and not being, of course, fully aware, of course, of the things which neurotypical minds, aka, like one of my fellow Aspies online says, the hive mind that comes naturally to them, to you, with which we have to build bridges, but doesn't come to us, and it's hard, and thus we can, be vulnerable. We can, for jobs, for employment, for being taken advantage of, for all these more negative traits, that people we have. Myself also, I'm not perfect. I lust, and I'm not totally charitable. I don't pretend. I don't have that pretense to be totally selfless. I want for self and for the other, but try to be a bit balanced. Selfishness, especially now, because all the civilization, which is a privilege, enabled. Canada, United States enabled multimillionaire owners of the NHL, NFL, NBA, MLB. Multimillionaires enabled multimillionaires. Enabled wealth. It enabled wealth, right? Well, I think about that. This is a privilege of civilization, having this pedestrian street. Hey, 44 is too much. Almost 45. Gotta do an average. See, when it goes more than 40, it turns red. Let's see this one. Oh, 47. And my brain, whenever I pass here, even now, I'm doing averages. See, 44, 42, 40, 40, those 4 cars. So one car was going 40. Let's do the average. One car was going 40, the other car was going 42, one was going 47, and the other one was going 44. So the average would be divided by 4. We got to add them up, right? So if we add 44 plus 46 plus 47 plus 44, we could do the average between those. So that's just how my brain functions. So let's do it together. So 42 plus 40, that's 82, right? Plus 47, that's 129, right? Plus 44, right? Plus 44. 129 plus 44, right? It's 173, right? 173 divided by 4, right? Divided by 4, it's about 43 point. Yeah, it's 43.25 about. So that's the average. Even the average is too high. Slow it down. See here, 41. But it slows down. But when it captured it, it was 41. But this one, let's see. Oh, that one was 36. Slowed down. So the average between those two is 36 plus 41. That's 77, right? So 77 divided by 2. That's 35, and 3.5. That's 38.5 average. It just comes to me, it's not hard for me. These things I can do, averages, percentages. I just do it, and actually, it's a love, but it's an Aspie love for this type of mathematics. I could do all day. Statistics, percentages, and price ratios, increasing of prices and all that. This just comes to me. I could do hours and hours and hours and hours a day of those things as I can do, of course, geopolitics with that. And that's just something which we have to get doing like that. The integral aspect, of course, of where we are to be now. So here I believe it's the consulate or embassy of China, because it has the emblem. Here's a big building which is kind of gated. I like the structure of it. I like how it's made. So I believe it's the embassy or the consulate of China, because it has not the flag of China, it has the emblem, whereas see, It has the stars, 5 stars, and it's yellow and red, and it has the house. Basically, the house is where it's in Beijing. It represents the people's house, their headquarters of the government of China, Beijing. So that's kind of what it is. On the emblem of China, not the flag. Not the flag. It's the emblem of the People's Republic of China, not Taiwan, the ROC. Just to be specific, it's not the ROC there. Just to be specific about that, because to understand it. So it's not bad, it's not negative to be an ASPE. We can be difficult in certain things, and we can also have to be told more directly, because some things we just don't get, and sometimes communication can be more different, especially when it comes to certain social knowledge and such as personal space. You're supposed to keep a few yards distance. ASPEs can get close to 4 inches, very close even to the face, to the body. That can cause a discomfort. Somebody might feel uncomfortable, might feel at risk, might feel insecure, might feel maladroit, might feel in peril. So I always have to take a few steps back, and that gives me hope, seeing my auntie and uncle holding hands there. I love that. I'll keep it up. So that's the characteristics which we have to manage, and it's manageable. There's different degrees of aspiness. And we just have to manage our characteristics. And now to the special interests and problems. So we have special interest, aka obsessive interest, but I don't use the word obsessive, because obsessive is more for somebody who is a neurotypical. For us, it's not really an obsession in the sense that you might have an obsession. It's kind of quite natural for me to be involved in whether geopolitics or training and fitness for hours and hours and hours and hours a day, right? So it kind of is a naturalness in our aspiness to have these aka obsessive interests, but I use the word special interest, special focused, or special intense. Yes, myself included, we an aspirant can be super intense, super concentrated, super dedicated, super focused, super engaged in those special interests, aka obsessive interests. And an ASPE, not all ASPEs are good at computer science, by the way. It's 20% plus, more than 1 out of 5, so more than 20%. Whose special interest usually, but that's still high. 1 out of 5 ASPEs are good at computers. If you're an ASPE, you're good at computers. Teach me. Because I know geopolitics, rock and roll, sports and fitness. In a parallel life, it is the year of darkness, 2029, 13th of November. 2029, 13th of November. In the year of darkness, parallel self, I build supercomputers. Those supercomputers, ICBM rockets, microchips, antennas, all things to do with satellites. I build satellites. I spend my life between Canada, United States, Germany, and Israel mostly in that parallel life. And now the parallel life is it's November 13 now, 2029. It's November 13, 2029. In that parallel self where I build supercomputers, ICBM rockets and gadgets, and of course all things to do with SATs, transponders, and microchips, supercomputers, satellites, surveillance, webcams like we just saw, those parallel ones. Webcams and antennas, all things to do with those gadgets. In the parallel life, I build that, and now I'm connecting with my parallel life. My parallel self gets headaches from my rock and roll, and I get headaches from his science. So we kind of interject, and we kind of get, of course, on the science side, and he's giving me headaches with supercomputers and mathematics and super science, and I give him headaches with roll. So we both give each other headaches in many instances, where we give each other headaches for the situational awareness where we are now, to be involved in all the dynamics. But generally we get a little bit of rock and roll, and I get a little bit of knowledge and more science every day. I guess we're waiting for the parallel self to be December 25th, 2029. Because now it's November 13, 2029. In the year darkness, my parallel self lives. And the date is November 13th, 2029. So in the future. But today is 15th of September. September 15, 2025 now. So in that parallel timeline. Plenty of time just to connect as we go. So it's not evil, it's not bad, it's not negative. We have these special interests and they kind of preoccupy our daily routines with intensity, super focus, super concentration, and sometimes very good things can come out of it, you know. And again, not all aspies are good at computer science, about 20% are, 1/5, and what I'm good at is geopolitics and rock and roll. So now we're gonna focus on geopolitics. So leave the baggage at the door. But before I do focus on geopolitics, I'm gonna spend a few more minutes on the problems of Asperger's, because we do have problems, and those 4 main problems are lack of friends. I have the solution. Don't waste my time. I won't waste yours. Friends with benefits only. If you're an adult, black, white, rainbow, you want LOV, great iron, that's good, you know. Otherwise, just don't waste my time. I won't waste yours. What for, you know? Rock and roll, man. Life is short. I could give good massages. I could use a massage. I'm not looking, if I'm gonna propose again to somebody I proposed in the past for open special marriage. I'm probably gonna be the greatest CUCK cuckold, and I am androgynous pansexual 50-50 and pansexual androgynous pansexual, but that's what we gotta get doing with that, and it's on the road now to get doing now. So that's where we are now in the levels. But I'm not frustrated sexually. I'm not sexually frustrated. If I would be, I would discuss it. I got a bit moody this morning, but I was less moody than last night. And as I had my coffee, did my geopolitics, did my laundry, stretched, expressed my gratitude, and now I'm happy, joyous, because I was a bit moody. But hey, it's been a long time ago since I haven't been depressed and suicidal. Depression and suicidal, I almost took my lights out myself. Being depressed and suicidal is no fun. It's no fun. Being depressed and suicidal is no fun, man. No fun, let me tell you. And I lived it for a few years, and I don't want to go back to nothing. You know, I started my fitness journey back then. 2017, I lost between 80 and 93 pounds, and between 80 and 93 pounds, so I'm joyous with that. And I lost between 80 and 93 pounds, so that's why we rock and roll with that now. So lack of friends, friends with women if it's only, or pledge your allegiance. Our family special Dragon versus Trump event. Pledge your allegiance. Our family. Pledge your allegiance. Our family. And that's that rock and roll 24/7. And lack of employment, or not necessarily lack. The problem with Aspies like myself, people who are neurodivergence, part of the Asperger community, we have jobs, we get employment, we get jobs. The problem is maintaining them, keeping them. You know how much it is in percentage, the unemployment rate for our people who have Asperger's, for Aspies like myself? Listen to this. 80%, 11 times higher. You realize that's totally unacceptable, 11 times higher. And I had many jobs. I had many jobs, you know. Many jobs. I just keeping them is difficult. Sometimes it's 4 months, a few weeks, a few days, 4 months, 3 months. It's just keeping them long term has been a problem. And I remember a few years ago when I was working quite happily, working in a steel factory and then CHSLD and then with the elderly and in a warehouse and what have you. I heard people whispering, they were whispering, that's a disease, that's a disease. I said, no, it's not a disease. It's not a disease at all. As a matter of fact, it's not a disease at all, so that's not a disease at all for that. And that's what something we got to do there, the situation where we are now and the Ramsey and the Boulevard here. I wish I could get my anonymous friend a house right there somewhere, if not by the river. So it's not a disease, no. But we're different, eh? So it can be bizarre, weird, awkward, strange, but it's not criminal, it's not illegal, and it's not evil to be so, right? Although some aspies, including myself, might face some legal sometimes issues because we can do certain things in public. And myself, you know, because I apply a cream because I scratched and I went to check if it's an STD, sexually transmitted disease. It's not. I have a big patch of like, it could be eczema or psoriasis, you know, that itchy dry skin which you can't get rid of, you just have to put cream, but it's a lifelong condition if you have it. Or it could be some scar or something that on my clit, which sometimes goes rocket, that androgynous. Sometimes goes rocket, God it bless, but it gets bigger and bigger as I get the erections, you know, because I got that 50-50 androgynous clit dick. I got that, you know, it's the erections, but it's a patch on, it goes bigger and bigger. I discussed it in the past, nothing that I don't need to spy on me. Secret services of China, secret services of Russia, I don't need to spy on me. I scratch less now in public because I apply a cream, but I need to get a better one. I haven't applied today. If I do get itchy, I'm not gonna scratch. I'm just gonna turn left and right. You know, there's ways to cope with that, and I have a way to cope. Like sometimes I just get closer with my knees and bend my knees a bit. But it does get itchy when I work out, when I train, when I sweat. It's just like little, how can I explain it? Like little ants, 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 little ants passing quickly. That's why sometimes it feels like right on my clit dick, genitalia, private parts. No need to spy on me. I discussed it in the past, and it's not something that affects me to not live and work and be. It's just that it has happened in the past. You know, I scratched, and my friend was telling me to stop scratching. But that's just what it is with that, and that's just what we got. And confluence is here. So this is quite something here. See, isn't this beautiful? Thank you, public workers. I just love this part here. Just good job overall. So nice. I just love public garden here. Those are really cute flowers they put. I don't know their names, but they're nice. It's like if you don't have a garden, you can come here and just sit with that and sit where they go. See. Hey, there's a bunny. See, look at that. It's running. Bunny. See, look, it's a bunny. Yeah, it's ran away. That's a bunny. We have bunnies here. That's why I call not to pollute. So that's with Asperger's, we have those problems. Lack of friends, Friends with benefits only. Don't waste my time, I won't waste yours. Thanks for understanding. Rock and roll, what for? Friends with benefits only. Friends with benefits only. Or pledge your allegiance. We have trouble with maintaining long-term friends. And it's friends with benefits only, so from now on, so that you know, friends with benefits only. And that's, for Aspies, is difficult, you know. Has been difficult. I made a lot of friends, especially the Pride parades in the LGBTQ community, which I'm part of, but I lost most of them, I lost most of them. So friends with benefits only, that's about how we rock and roll with that. And we're gonna go to the top, and that's how we're gonna get that main now. So all that rock and roll for now. There we go, we can cross, and my cousins there are on the go with that, and that's something which we got to get doing, and they're passing on the go now to be getting on the left and on the right and getting on that W crossing of the street. So now, before we enter, we're gonna just discuss the last problem for Aspies is maintaining long-term employments. Long-term employment, of course, we gotta get doing for that. So long-term employments is something where we gotta be categorically on the side of the things where we are now, you know, to be of course on the side, and something where we go up. Let my main out. Oh yeah. In 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh yeah, that's what I like here. Ta-da! Victory. I love coming here. Just, you know it from past times that I just love coming here. It's just super nice. Anybody wants to finance, you know, that I go up and down these stairs, you know, blah blah, and I just love it, and it's something which I adore doing, and which I really enjoy. It's my second home. my mistress on the mountain anybody wants to finance, that I go up and down these stairs, up and down these stairs, you know, up and down these stairs now, and in the concomitantly where we are to go up and down and roundabout, you know, something which we gotta salute, you know, the Hydro-Quebec workers there, you know, to put it on the Hydro-Quebec, you know, to get it on the go, and getting on the left and putting on those left and right and poles, so as we have electricity, you know, to getting on that left and in the right side of the sphere, you know, to get it now for the dynamics of the Appalachians. But it's thanks to Hydro-Quebec, and all the lights that you see, they come from clean energy. They come from clean energy. That is just something which we gotta get doing that, and that is just something what we have to get doing on the go. So it's something which we got to get plural on the go now. And of course, it is the situational awareness where we are to getting on the go now, and that is something which we have, of course, to be. So of course, all the life affirming matters where we are now, that is where we got to be drilling it. And just keep your right side, you know, just like driving, just keep your right, and you know, just to be mindful, just like driving, you know, something what we have, of course, to do now. The Appalachian, what we got to be drilling for the goal, you know, is something which we gotta be drilling on this side of the things where we are now. So that is what we got, you know. And then we got the domain plateau, and we got that rock and roll, and we got it deep in, and we got some problems with Aspies. That Aspies, we as Aspies, as Aspies, we have some those problems. High depression and suicidal rates is 9 times higher than the neurotypicals, is 9 times higher than the neurotypicals, you know. 9 times higher. The suicidal depression rates, the unemployment rates, 11 times higher. Can you imagine? 11 times higher. 11 times. So for every one of you, which are the majority, 99%, there's 11 of us unemployed. The unemployment for Aspies is 80%, 4 out of 5. You realize how unjust that is, how we gotta work on that. You realize that 80%, 4 out of 5, 4 out of 5. That is very high, you know. That is very high, you know. Concomitantly where we are now in the situation, you know, is this intergenerational building of the beautification, the beautiful sunset that you see there as we go atop Mount Royal. The main peak of the Mount Royal system got three mountain peak system right in the center. Slight south, but right between the east and the west on the big island metropolis, Montreal, aka HAWK, Hawk Island of 2.5 million people. My home in a past life and in another life. I was born a woman, a man here, and I lived as a woman between 1688 and 1735. As a woman between 1688, 1688, and 1735. And I recommend all stay in the light, because I'm gonna go deep in the darkness in the mistress. So that's what we got, and yeah, you can hear the sounds of nature, and I'm in the darkness, my mistress. So we got those problems, which the solution for me, friends with benefits only, and employment, well, I paid my rent, paid my electricity bill. The only bill I got to pay now is my phone bill, right? Besides those bills, I'm good. Phone bill I got until the 30th of September, otherwise I'm late. I'm gonna pay a few late fees. I think it's $4, which I don't want to pay to the corporation because they got plenty of that profit, you know. So I'm gonna try to pay it at least half by September 30th. So I got 15 days from today. 15 days, let's say 2 weeks, because it's already night. So from tomorrow I got two weeks exactly. So not Tuesday, today's Monday, tomorrow Tuesday, then not next Tuesday, but the other Tuesday. So that is the reciprocity of what we have in the Concordiate. So that is the concordiate for us to be interrelated about and interjected about and interplaced about in the dynamics where we are now, to be loving and to be kind and to be fair and just to aspies and non-aspies alike. Because I don't have antagonistic feelings towards you, the 99%ers, the vast majority of the population, of which you are the neurotypicals, the 99%, you are neurotypicals. I don't have antagonistic feelings, resentful feelings, or negative feelings. No, we have to build the bridges, and I accepted it who I am, my difference, and we have to build the bridges, and those bridges have to be built sometimes with more effort on both sides, and it's a reciprocity. So that's pretty much the problems. The unemployment, lack of friends, and of course I got all the solutions. Friends with benefits only, don't waste my time, I won't waste yours. You're 18 plus though, you gotta be 18 plus for that good rainbow dragon loving priestess, huh? I'm not frustrated in any way, but I could use massage therapy sessions, I guess. Sometimes it's better to admit if you have certain feelings, like, you know, sometimes we're not okay. Sometimes it's okay to not be okay, you know. And that's another aspect. Sometimes you see my videos, some people ask, how are you? I would say, so, or financially stressed. Or if they say, I'm sorry. And I say, why are you sorry for? You're not the fault of me being financially stressed and losing employments. Is because these bridges were not built with the neurotypicals. And that's it, that's all. I paid my rent, paid my electricity bill, got food and coffee, and live free and justly and righteously, and love how you will to love, where thou will, who thou will, 93, and don't turn the other cheek, you know, may I be avenged, live and fall, and that's about that. Money is to buy, sell. So we're gonna get into geopolitics now, leave the baggage at the door. Geopolitics, we're gonna get into geopolitics. So I'm an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, philosopher, mystic artist, and I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. In 2019. So in October 2019, I have predicted that on the horizon is a great storm, the storm of the century coming. In other words, a World War III. So I predicted a World War III, an international conflagration back in 2019. I have the proof. I have the videos to back up what I was saying, because I have also made, created, and produced a workout training program system designed, made, and created to go hand in hand with such a scenario as a World War III scenario that I just said aforementioned. So I have created that workout training program system, officially titled the General War Integrated Total Body Training System. The General War Integrated Total Body Training System, aka the Dragon Army workout. Back in 2019, I also performed more than 372 sessions of our own created workout training program system myself back then. So I created my own workout training program system back then, and I successfully completed more than 372 sessions of it back in 2019. And I'm gonna just discuss it briefly, because I have been since for years and years and years now, more than 4 years since I've been performing it online, Facebook, via live, and hundreds of videos of that workout training program you can find on my YouTube channel. Of course, it got several rules, so it is simple, effective, and efficient. It is made to go hand in hand with a World War III scenario. So of course, the workout training program system is, you got to do 100 push-ups, 100 squats, 100 hawks. 3 exercises: push-ups, hawks, squats, push-ups, hawks. You got 93 minutes, 44 seconds, and 9/11ths of a second. The 9/11th is, yes, to commemorate 9/11, although supposedly, according to my journal, I was finishing high school when that happened. I was in physics class, but my own personal memories before 2014, winter, spring, before February 2014 roundabout. Before February 2014, there's a blackout of my memories. I have trouble with memory before that time, my own personal memories. But of course, those memories don't affect retrograde amnesia, RA, and memory loss like that do not affect mathematical skills or linguistic skills. Linguistic skills, mathematics, linguistic skills. It's interesting because sometimes I hear German and other languages and I kind of know about them, know a bit. It's interesting, maybe when I was young I learned them and I spoke them, but I guess in 11 years I haven't, so whatever the case may be. So that is just the situation where we are now. So keep that on the side and do. Of course, I have the proof because I have the video dating from October 17th, 2019. So that's more than 5 years ago. And just before I had COVID, because I had COVID between mid-February 2020 till about March 2020. Mid-February till about March 2020. So I had COVID. And of course, I had COVID. And I survived COVID. COVID for me was like death, pestilence, and disease. I got triple vax, 3 vaccines. And I encourage you all to keep the hygienic protocols in the public. Please, please, please. Keep the hygienic protocols in the public. We have to keep as much as we can, you know, the microbes, bacteria, germs. And that's something we got to mass public-private finance as well as parallel with fitness and tourism. So I predicted what's happening now. My workout training program system was made to go with such an event such as the World War III, and I have been and will continue to do it now. I advocate for it to be incorporated across universities of North America, NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization member, high schools of NATO, security forces of NATO, RCMP, police forces, and of course military forces of Canada and NATO forces for NORAD, NATO, Canada, United States. And of course in high schools as long as 7. So here are the rules of my workout, which the official long title is the General War Integrated Total Body Training System, aka the Dragon Army workout, aka the 300 workout. You are allocated 93 minutes, 44 seconds, and 9/11ths of a second. So in other words, 93 minutes and almost 45 seconds, but not quite 45 seconds officially. So almost 45 seconds, but 93 minutes is an hour and a half plus 3 minutes. It's like a movie length, right? 93 minutes. So that's an hour and a half plus some minutes and almost 45 seconds. 44 seconds and 9/11ths of a second. That's the fraction. 9/11ths, 9 over divided by 11, or 9/11th of a second. It's a symbolic, representing 9/11, the September 11th attacks. So one has to do, once the countdown starts, so once you start the clock, the countdown for the workout, you gotta keep it in motion, and you cannot do more than 13 reps per set, or 3 minimum. So the other numbers to remember is 13-3. So 13 or 3, 13 and 3, they go hand in hand together. So you can do 13 push-ups, or 3 push-ups, or anywhere in between until you get to 100 push-ups, 100 squats, 100 hocks. If you want to see, I have more than 372 sessions of it completed myself. I average about an hour to do. The longest it took me was 88 minutes and 50 seconds. 88 minutes and 50 seconds. And the shortest was almost 45 minutes. It was 44 minutes and 54 seconds. So almost 45 minutes. So I ranged between that. The average was about 60 minutes. Is about an hour for me, the average. So sometimes a bit less, 55 minutes, 58 minutes, sometimes 66 minutes, 70 minutes, depending, because you cannot stop, you cannot pause, you got to keep it in motion, eh? So the rules are simple. So once you start the countdown, you cannot pause. So while you do the sets, the reps, you cannot pause. You have to march, jog, run, or walk, fast pace or slow pace, but you can't stop. So you can't do 10 push-ups and stop. You have to, after you do the push-ups, you have to keep it in march, a minimum of 4 steps. 4 steps, east, west, north, south. East, west, north, south, right? So you got to take 1, 2, 3, 4. So basically you can do it in a small room. The workout as I've been doing in my underground basement room, which is a bit bigger than where I used to live, in my underground basement. But you can do it outside, you can do it anywhere. I did it outside, I did it in the storms outside here on the mountains, so you could do it basically in almost all terrain, but not all terrain, because if it's thunder, I don't recommend it in a hurricane and all. I mean terrain and weather, weather, terrain, I guess you could, but maybe if it's minus 50, you got to be well dressed, or 44 degrees Celsius in the heat wave. Maybe, of course, is something that you got to compliment yourself to maybe not be that eager to do, because you got to be, well, you can try. If you fail, you got to do it again. But once you start the countdown, you got to keep it in motion. So there's no pause, no stop. You got to march, you got to jog, you got to walk. You got to keep it in motion, of course, to keep it in motion on the go. So you got to march, jog, or keep it in motion all the time, of course, to go drilling on the go. So you got to march, jog, run, or walk fast pace. Walk fast pace, jog, march, or run. Run, march, jog, walk fast pace. Walk fast pace, jog, run, or march. So you got to march, or jog, or run, or march fast pace. So those four, marching, jogging, walking, or walking fast pace, those are the what you can do. What you can do, yeah, because you can, of course, in theory, jog or just march, just walk. But you can't stop. So those are the rules. So now back to geopolitics. I predicted what's happening now. However, what I did not predict was that there's going to be a deterioration of relations with the United States. Or deterioration with the United States. I did not predict that the United States is going to be in such a deteriorated place with us, Canada. And of course, since August 1st, it's been, of course, now almost 50 days. It's 45 days, 44 days, almost 45 days since August 1st, when Canada, where we have been designated as an unusual, an extraordinary threat to the American people, and of course when the tariffs were increased on Canadian goods, and of course we have been labeled, gives me goosebumps, and it's serious, my fellow Canadians, Uncle Connie, the king is absent. And because our main interest has to be whether on the left, on the right, in the center, whether on the left, on the right, or in the center, we on the center left and center right, of course, we as Canadians, our number one top foreign priority is to have the best, most cordial economic, social, financial, economic, military, defense relations with the United States. There's just no way out of that. There's just no way. And 3/4, 75%, more than 75% of our goods go, of course, to the United States. So more than 75% of our goods go, of course, to the United States. So that is just the plateau where we are intermittently and interjectingly, where we are now in all the domains. For the foreign affairs, our main objective is to have the best, most cordial relations with the United States. There's just no way around that. There's just no way around that. That is just something which we have to do intermittently, and we have, of course, to appellate where we are now to be on the side of the things, where we are to interject this protocol which has to be accorded, and you have to affirm that. Yes. You cannot negate what I just say. You cannot say no to what I just said. You can only say yes. Our main, of course, interest is, of course, to have the best, most cordial relations with the United States. That is just something which we have to do, of course, in the interjections where we are now posited and positively declare ourselves, of course, to get it on the go with all the appellations where we are now, to get it on, to solve this mystery of the growing threat. It's not really a mystery, but it's a national security threat now, because we got to take this side serious. And of course, this serious, of course, is something which we have, of course, to do in the position where we are now, to get it now on the drill. And that's just something where we have to get it on the side of the things where we are now, to be on the loving, affirming side of the appellations of the world affairs. In terms of the geopolitics, it is the best cordial relations to do with each other, so something that we have to work on as in geopolitics. We have, of course, to always transfer and say yes here at the top of the mountain, where we have, of course, to say a beautiful beautification here, of course, of these beauties. And that is something which we have, of course, to get doing like that, to get it on the go, to get it now. And that is just something where we have to be doing now. So that is something which you can get hydrated before we proceed, and to look at the beautification of all beautiful city here. We got to, of course, implement my protocols best, the DRT, debt refusion theory, of course, for the creation of the UE, the universal exchange. And is that something which myself I have to discuss coming in the future? And that is just something where we got, to be loving kindness here. Look at that. Usually about 10 seconds is required for the dirt, of course, to pop, and of course the dirt to pop in the side of the things. And sometimes there's rust as well. But how did they build it here? This is a privilege of civilization here. How did they build it with brains and muscle to build it here? Remember? I don't remember because I wasn't here, but it's quite... somebody knows. Somebody, I say remember, as in if you worked here when they were building it. I wonder how they were doing the engineering, the brains and the muscle engineering to build it atop the mountain. That is just something which we have, of course, to get doing now. And to get it, of course, in this sensation. Oh yeah, I feel so good. Thank you, whoever built it like that. And I love coming here atop the mountain. That's good. We can't.
But more than 14.
That is my favorite skyscraper. That's the favorite skyscraper right there, man. Whoever built that, always rock and roll. See? Look at that pyramid. It's so nice. Firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, plumbers, electricians, the welders, all those involved in the production, distribution of food, rock and roll across the 50s, the 60s, and the 63. Flipping some cheeseburgers, burgers, train conductors, firefighters, plumbers, electricians, welders, doctors, butchers, all those construction workers. We're going to build the fort. Let's go back into the darkness. Back into the darkness. And that it was something which we're gonna have to be doing with that, and that's why we have to get doing on that rock and roll, you know, so that we get it on the domain, and of course to get it on the left and on the right. And it was something which we have, of course, to do. It was always us, eh? It's always us. So the perspective here from atop the mountain, you can see it yourself how nice it is, and of course there's different ways, eh? You can go different ways about it. So you can go by different sizes and different manners where we are now, you know, to implement, and of course to be on all the situations we gotta be doing on that, and all the side where we are now, man. So back to what I was saying, in 2019 I predicted that of course there's going to be an international conflagration of a major proportion. So basically it was very academic, very intellectual in matters, but the main proposition or the main fundamental aspect of it, see, even from here you can see the pyramid, the main aspect of it was that due to these unresolved conflicts, so basically that there were unresolved conflicts which were not fully resolved, that these conflicts were going to of course recommence in the 21st century. So that was just the philosophy, but that was one of the main points. Wasn't only the one point, because it has several points of intellectual analysis, a bit of an academia, you know, of a geopolitical nature. But the main point was that due to the fact that there was unresolved conflicts of the 20th century, that these conflicts are going to recommence, restart. So if you check what's happening now, of course, in Russia, Ukraine, of course, is an unresolved conflict from the 20th century, where of course there was not resoluted, and there was not, of course, a resolution of the conflict, where we have, of course, to interject all the dynamics where we are now, to appellate, of course, all the situational awareness where we got to be doing now in all the circumstantial positions where we are closer than ever to a World War III. So I predicted a World War III. In other words, it was an international conflagration of World War III due to the deterioration, of course, of relations, you know, to get it on the do and that, and all that domain name where we are now, to be consequently, of course, to be prudent on the side. And that is just here where we got, to be on the resolutions, of course, and all the complemental, of course, aspects where we are now, to get out of the domain where we're gonna go to the left and to the right and to the circle around about. Beautiful, beautiful. It was good, and that's what we're gonna get on the side now, to get it on the domain, to get it now. And of course it is in the darkness where sometimes we see, sometimes, and in the darkness here sometimes I feel joyous because there's the breaking of illusions. There's the breaking of illusions. Sometimes mistress is fierce. Mother Nature, when I get here in the forest, atop the forest, my mistress is like therapy, and of course all the domain where we are now, to get on the circumcision, of course, on the volatility of our environment is something where we got now to be of the dynamics and the dynamical force, which is Mother Nature, who's the goddess, forgotten G-O-D-D-S-S, and she calls me little C with CK, so I said I'm gonna be the greatest cuckold then. Back to geopolitics. I predicted what's happening now, in a general manner. So not in a detailed manner, but in a general manner, I predicted, that there's going to be an international conflagration, and so created and produced that workout training program system created to go with such a scenario as aforementioned, a World War III scenario. So that is what I predicted back in 2019. In October 2019, that's what I predicted, that there's going to be an international conflagration. And so that has been happening, and major points of this prediction was that due to, not all, but major points were of implication that unresolved conflicts from the Cold War, which lasted between 1947 and 1991, right? March 1947 till December 1991, some say 1946, 45 to 1991. So some say 45 years, 46 years plus. I say almost 45 years. Almost 45 years. Between March 1947 and 1991. But I don't mind saying more than 45. I take the position about, almost. ALMOST, almost 45 years. But I'm not setting stone on that. If some people want to argue, I don't generally argue because I don't mind extending it. The Cold War, duration of the Cold War, I don't mind adding a few months or a year even, let's say that. But nonetheless, the conflicts, Russia-Ukraine, are from the Cold War period. China-Taiwan potential conflict is Cold War period time conflict. And India-Pakistan, just a few weeks ago, of course they have nuclear weapons, both of them. So they go back to the Cold War during the partition, and their last war was 1971. And of course, keep in mind that Bangladesh split from Pakistan, and Pakistan was united with Bangladesh in one country, and that they were split from India, right? So they had split from India after 1947, the dissolution of the British Empire. So that was my prediction, that there's going to be an international conflagration. And so I made and created and produced the workout training program system to go with such an event, such as an international conflagration. So that is just where we are, situated in the positions where we are, now integrated in all the capabilities where we are to do now, with a focus and the determination of all our capabilities and all our domain names, and of course to my initiatives, protocols are mainly for NORAD, for what I call the North American Collective, or the Civilizational Collective of North America, or the Complex of Civilization of North American, because we are a civilizational complex which is not totally divorced, but is distinct from Western civilization. Here's another great spot where you can see the city. I'm just gonna stretch a bit here, because here we got like a fence, a big fence here, so I can just stretch my legs, and that's my favorite skyscraper there, the pyramid. Look at that beauty, the pyramid. Thank you, workers, hey, who built that pyramid. You know that all this electricity is zero pollution, zero emission. It comes from the 63 dams. Interesting enough, always for the 63 dams of Hydro-Quebec, and the electricity from Hydro-Quebec, go workers of the past, present, and future, always goes, of course, to the past. Always goes, of course, to the domain where we are, of course, the situational awareness, and of course we have to get doing on that XYZ situational awareness that all our electricity has to be doing there, of course, for the prudently side, of course, of all the civilizational complex, where it goes to the domain all the way to Manhattan. About a fifth, more than 20% of the electricity comes from Hydro-Quebec, and it goes all the way to Manhattan in New York, and about 5 or 6 states in the US receive electricity from Hydro-Quebec. So I'm just going to stretch my back here a bit, because I got that backpack, it got that heavy a bit, so I always got to be grateful for the donations which I got. I'm very grateful for that, and that's something which is sweet and good. And just gonna stretch my legs, and then we're gonna go back, because I got a few hours to go from here to my place is a few hours. So before we go back into the darkness, from the light into nebulous looks, I predicted what's happening now. Now, my protocols initiatives are mainly for the NORAD complex, such as the Total Mobile Defense Theory, which I cannot discuss over much, the Total Mobile Defense Theory. The TMDT, because it's national, actually binational and NATO security, of course, which I did in the past with CSIS. I have to be discussing it with David McGinty, another top-ranking generals and members of the security apparatus, RCMP and FBI, and of course, all the top, of course, public and private institutions and organizations such as Palantir and other organizations. The TMDT, Total Mobile Defense Theory, when we add an S, it becomes a system, and I call it to be put into practice as Operation Northern Scorpion. From Scorpion, of course, Canada, United States, Mexico comes. The only species of scorpion we have is, of course, the Northern Scorpion, which comes all the way to Canada. And of course, keeping that in mind, that I cannot divulge too much information about the Total Mobile Defense Theory and other protocols such as the new 911 Dragon Army, Total 911 North American Dragon Integrated SSD complex for total security, total service, total defense, to be integrated across all the North American collective as a mass public-private partnership, mass PVP. My dream, the dancing goddess in the Dragon Kingdom, my way to fuse Canada, United States best into the 63 Imperial Republican complex. Of course, the North American Collective Workers' Party, let's get it founded. The Imperial Democratic Republic of America, united in the true north, strong and free, with the land of the free and the home of the brave in the 63. We got to mass finance healthcare. We got to mass finance the rehabilitation of our North American population, healthcare, and of course all the things that we have, of course, as an appellation to the transition, of course, point of transition towards the Imperial Democratic Republic, as a 63 for total SSD, security, service and defense, a total police state. For the SSD, as a mass public-private partnership, I require, of course, the implementation of my DRT, and Bill Gates and other for BlackRock and Blackstone, our two financial institutions, were split after 1989, but basically to say that it requires a mass public-private partnership across the North American collective to integrate, of course, across the NORAD complex and the NATO North Atlantic Treaty Organization member states, that it requires this massive public-private partnership to implement the trinity of theories known as the CIT, Citizen Integration Theory, the DRT, Death Fusion Theory, especially, and the DFT, Democratic Fusion Theory, and to create the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions thereof of the Imperial Integrated SSD Legion, the Dragon Army, aka with the Dancing Goddess Army, the Imperial Integrated Dance League, in complementary, of course, to what is going to happen as we're going to go east, west, north, south, and extend in my theories and protocols and initiative and the defense theory, the TMDT, Total Mobile Defense Theory by Operation Northern Scorpion, to the NATO complex. So now I'm going to discuss the DMAA, Direct Military Assistance and Action Theory, and of course I have to let you know again that our main interest is to have again the best, most cordial relations with the United States. There's no way around that. You cannot, of course, negate that. You cannot say no. So this is a constant, mathematical constant. Of course, just as to make a reference and just to make a similar reference, and of course to situate you just like the pie, not the edible pie, the bacon pie, cheese pie, apple pie, strudel pie, strawberry pie, chocolate pie, all sorts of pie, but the pie, the symbol, mathematical symbol, which is the reference, of course, for the pie number, which is 3.1416, always related to the diameter and the circle. It's always the same number. It's a pie. It's like the letter N, with two heads, two faces, just like our empire, the fusion of Canada and United States into the Imperial Democratic Republic. We have two heads, two faces, two-headed, two-faced. One for benevolent dominance and goodness and kindness, the other one for punishing. So that's what our empire, coming empire, will be: two-headed, two-faced. The Imperial Democratic Republic of the 63, perpetually let it rise and let it be. So we are going to concord that, and that's what we're going to do. And let's sign, of course, the Imperial Protocols ASAP, September 11th as we move. Of course, let's sign on December 24th and 25th here, Dragon Trump on the mountain. December 24th, 25th on the mountain. December 24th, 25th, right here on the mountain. So of course, let's implement the protocols, and of course that and the letter N for Normandy, natural, neurodivergent, neurotypical, neutral is the letter N. It has two heads, two faces, is the pi symbol. The pi symbol always represents that number 3.1415, 3.1416. It's always the same. It doesn't change. It fluctuates. It does not fluctuate. It does not change. It does not alter. It's a constant. In contrast, comparison to a variable which does change. So that's a constant. Just like that for us has been a constant for the past 75 years, it is so today. Us as Canadians, Quebec as Canadians, and vice versa in reciprocity, my brothers and sisters from the USA. Our main interest is to have the best, most cordial economic, social, financial relations with each other. You cannot argue no, you cannot say no to that. You have to say yes. That cannot be, of course, even a no. That cannot be even be a maybe. That cannot be even a maybe. It has to be, of course, a yes. Yes. Is the appellation, of course, of the interdiction where we are now, situated in all the domains where we are, of course, involved in all the domains where we got, of course, to be circumstantial about, and of course, all the domain where we are. We have to accord it as a yes. You cannot say no to that. You cannot say no. So, as Canadians, and vice versa, for the United States vis-a-vis Canada, it is this is foreign policy, not internal domestic policies or initiatives, or as a foreign policy for both Canada vis-a-vis the United States and for the United States vis-a-vis Canada, is to work to have the best, most cordial economic, social, financial, military, diplomatic, defense relations with each other. There's no maybe to that. That's just what it is. It is so. It has been so. It is so. You cannot negotiate with that. You cannot say no to that, and you cannot negotiate with that. That's just the constant. It has been so at least since the dissolution of the British Empire after the Second World War. Also for the United States vis-a-vis Canada, although the United States, my brothers and sisters, once I lived 3 past lives, post 70-76, I'm a Canadian American for the Empire of the Republic of the 63. Perpetually let it be, rise and let it see. So, it is to have the best, most cordial economic relations with each other. So we're not going to annex, we're going to fuse. My public-private partnership, universal revolutionary centrism best. My universal revolutionary centrism, though, is tied hand in hand with my Trinity of theories and is North American-centric, because it reflects the North American civilizational complex and our common destiny as Canadians, Americans, and all who come to join us here in the new free world, which we're going to have some joy and some healing and some rejuvenation, rehabilitation from the mountain here. The mountain, Mount Royal. The bicameral, we're going to have 4 types of capitals. We're going to build Montreal into a super military, industrial defense, security service and defense legions, into a super security service and defense militarized legions, and integrate with all existing police forces and institutions. So we're going to build an integrated plateau of systems of all public-private partnership. We're going to open up and do the public-private partnership and rehabilitate the population, our criminal population as well, those who will, and those who, of course, we have to discern a bit, because our empire is going to be two-headed, two-faced, just like that pie. One head for goodness and kindness, benevolence, the other one for punishment. So, pledge your allegiance to our family. The D, we're going to discuss now the direct military assistance and action. The direct military assistance and action. The direct military assistance and action is, of course, related to the protocols that I have aforementioned. Before, of course, the protocols that I have aforementioned are related to the plateau and the organizational aspects of NATO. The DMAA is a theory, direct military assistance and action. Leave the baggage that could go. It is my theory, my protocol. It is not just a theoretical protocol and philosophy. It is actually a working tool for future reference for NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, whose motto is Animus in consuelo liber. Animus in consuelo liber, a mind unfettered in deliberation. That's Latin from the Roman Empire. Just like the motto of Canada is Latin, the United States is Latin, the motto of NATO is Latin, and my city, Montreal, it's Concordia Salus, wellness through harmony, or harmony through wellness, harmony through wellness. Concordia Salus, Concordia, Salus, Concordia Salus. That's the motto, of course, of Montreal, the hot kind of Montreal where I reside. It's Latin. Of course, the motto of the Dragon Empire. It's one of the mottos, several of the SSD, the Dragon Armies, Draconis, Imperium, the Jeunesse Servitas, the Dragon Empire, and the Legions serve it. So the legions, the Dragon Army, the legions of the Dragon Army serve it. The Dragon Army, at your service, myself included. Adriana, Dragon Priestess of the Empire of the 63. God bless, Goddess Kiss. God bless, Goddess Kiss. God bless, Goddess Kiss. I laying the foundations with 718 trillions of kisses for the 63 and for NATO, blah, blah, blah. We got to get on those steps, rock and roll. And of course, we got to get on that consequentially now. Prudence and of course the administrative aspects of our domain names that the DMAA has to be put forward now and implemented, integrated across all NATO spheres of deliberation. As of course it is a mind unfettered in deliberation, and of course a mind animus in consuelo liber is of course the motto of NATO, and that means a mind unfettered in deliberation. My DMAA, direct military assistance or action, has to be deliberate and has to be integrated from now on at all levels of decision making. So the DMAA, direct military assistance and action, has in parentheses the C, the potential consequence. Now, because I discussed it with my friend, and I was told, of course, in the certain appellations where we have the domain name, where we are now interjected, we are, of course, to be prudent, and we have, of course, to be mindful of all these situations, that we are in concordiate to the naturalness of our ability. I tripped, but I didn't fall. I was actually thinking about my third proposal at the same time as I was discussing geopolitics. So I should propose again. If I marry somebody, it's gonna marry me, but the one I proposed a few times, and say bury me with Papa Crowley, in New Jersey, and every 11 years rotate me to the city of the pyramids, and here bring me back here every 11 years. On the mountain here first, 11 years. Atop the mountain here, Mount Royal, at the back of the Belvedere. After my death at the back of the Belvedere there, at the House of the Dragon, which we're gonna build the 4. Build the 4. I'm gonna go with the building of the 4 and then finish the DMAA. Help support build the Imperial People's Coliseum to be 11 times bigger than the Caesar Superdome, would change names from, of course, before it was known as the Louisiana Superdome, and then Mercedes-Benz, and just like I changed names, still gotta pay officially to change my name, but of course the Mercedes Superdome, Mercedes-Benz Dome, before Louisiana Superdome, and it's where many Super Bowls were fought and battled out, such as one of my favorite, paradoxically, when my 49ers lost. They won the first 2 games, but Super Bowl 47 has several nicknames, aka Blackout Bowl, aka Bro Bowl, aka Harbor Bowl. Super Bowl 47, my 49ers lost to the Ravens, aka Blackout Bowl, and of course that was the situation where we are now, of course, with the blackout, and that is all the domain and the situation where we are now, to be, of course, super involved to build on the Canadian US border the Imperial People's Coliseum for sports in perpetuities, to be 11 times bigger than that Super Bowl arena, the biggest ever sports building arena ever built, where me and Donald Trump, because it's Dragon versus Trump since 2018, have been and will continue to challenge Donald Trump to a boxing match ever since 2018. Well, of course, ever since 2018, when I, of course, completely got into politics, since Donald Trump made the mistake, Granddaddy Trump made the mistake to impose tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel, in parallel to the biggest ever sports coliseum we're going to build 11 times. The house of the Forgotten Goddess Temple, Forgotten Goddess DSS, the Forgotten Goddess Temple, Forgotten Goddess Temple, Goddess DSS, Forgotten Goddess. the Forgotten Goddess Temple. The Forgotten Goddess, 11 times bigger than the St. Joseph's Oratory. 11 times bigger, and we're gonna build a pyramid, House of the Dragon. Red, scarlet, crimson are shades of red, and the house, the Rainbow People's Palace for my fellow neurodivergents, parallel to the pyramid, House of the Dragon, my house, to have open house, and in a parallel life, in the year darkness, it is November 13, 2029, it is the with my parallel self. My parallel self is also an ASPE super scientist, designs, builds antennas, supercomputers, 5G, 6G, 7G, supercomputers, satellites, microchips, all things of telecommunications, smartphones, everything to do with science in that parallel self. My super self, I spend most of my time between Germany, United States, Canada, and Israel, and I build super in 2029 in that parallel self. In November 13, it is the date November 13 in the year of darkness, 2029, November 13, and Israel is part of NATO. And if you remember, before October 7th, I was advocating at the same time both Israel and Mexico to join simultaneously as the 32nd and 33rd, as of course Genesis 33, of course, Christ with our Bible, where Jacob and Esau reconciled and kissed and hugged, and of course Genesis 33 NATO protocols. And now I gotta see the resolution, what's going to go on with that. But of course, that is the Genesis 33 biblical reference. And see, look at that red in a parallel life. I know everything about supercomputers, science, telecommunication, gadgets, everything to do with telecommunications, science, and supercomputers. And I believe that's 5G, 4G there, 4G, 5G. I build supercomputers, satellites, telecommunications with a consortium of super scientists. I'm an ASPE. It is the year of darkness, November 13, 2029, back to this year, 2025, September 15. Geopolitics is my domain, realm, kingdom, and I am a great geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, continuing the DMAA, the Direct Military Assistance and Action. The DMAA, Direct Military Assistance and Action, is of course the theory, my theory protocol, and it is not just a theoretical reference, point of reference. It is a working tool for us to be deliberately engaged in as NATO. It has to be put at all levels of NATO because it has consequences. Some of those consequences potentially could be such as the growing transnational criminal syndicate organized groups, which have been funded potentially by nation states by which we have taken action or of course assistance. And keep in mind that the DMAA theory, the direct military assistance and action theory, is not just, of course, it's just military. Military has nothing to do, of course, with, so the DMAA has nothing to do with things that are not military. So it has nothing to do with things such as, of course, providing humanitarian aid, such as, of course, pads, sanitation pads, or of course all sorts of pads, sanitation pads, lube pads, or good pads, or bad pads, or pads or sanitation. It has nothing to do with sanitation pads or providing humanitarian assistance, humanitarian aid. The DMAA is strictly military, direct military assistance and action, which NATO countries as individuals or collective have undertaken vis-a-vis non-NATO member countries. For example, Canada supporting Ukraine. Ukraine was not part of NATO. The last NATO country, you have now 32, Canada, United States, and 30 European countries. Turkey is part of NATO, the North Atlantic Organization Association for Collective Security, Collective Defense. And Article 5 has been only invoked once, September 11th, 24 years ago, only once in NATO history. Article 5 has been invoked. When Article 5 is invoked, then NATO has to mobilize its armies for the defense of a NATO member country, of which, of course, from the Eastern Bloc, which were part of Warsaw, Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, right? They all were Warsaw Pact countries, Estonia, those are countries. So Romania, part of the Group 9, Bucharest 9, it's called since 2015 November. So yeah, this is another aspect that Ukraine was not part of NATO, but NATO has taken not direct action such as in Yugoslavia, Libya, and Syria and Iraq, but But, and as Israel was attacked, NATO, Israel was not part of NATO, is not part of NATO, neither is Ukraine or Taiwan or in Pakistan, right? There's 32 member countries. Turkey is the one that's in between Europe and the Middle East. So, of course, we have, of course, that appellation where we got now, and that is something where we got to be doing is a collective. So, of course, implementing NATO's policy protocols, my DMAA theory and working tool and reference, from now on, it has to be because it has a C. Potentially the consequences of taking direct military assistance or action has the consequence of potentially hostile internal diaspora groups fomenting, such as political assassinations by nation countries, also supporting transnational criminal syndicate organized groups. You saw what happened last year. On 25th of October 2024, the RCMP, the equivalent of the FBI, of course, has what seized the biggest ever super lab in Canadian history. The biggest ever super lab in Canadian history has been that laboratory which produced more fentanyl, which could have potentially killed the population of Canada twice over. Twice! The population, just one lab. What if that transnational criminal syndicate organized groups was financed by Russia because we took DMAA, direct military assistance, towards Ukraine? It could be DMAA, direct military assistance or action or assistance, or both. In this case, it was assistance, but it has to be military only, right? When we provide munition, armaments, helmets, drones, tanks, armored vehicles, weaponry, that is military because it can kill potentially the adverse soldier. So that's what you have to keep in mind, is DMAA is the theory when it has to go to do with military. So of course, since August 1st, now we're designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat because supposedly our RCMP forces and police forces have not coordinated well with US law enforcement vis-a-vis fentanyl. And supposedly the fentanyl which went from Canada into the United States tripled since last year, 2024, and potentially it said that fentanyl which crossed in 2025 when the fiscal year was not yet over, if it could have potentially killed 16 million Americans. 16 million. That's twice the population of my province of Quebec. 16 million. 16 million. That's a country. That's a population of a country. That's a lot. Just in 1 year, that fentanyl, more and more, I'm quantifying it as a bioweapon, as a biological weapon, because it doesn't make sense. Because if it's not profit, right, if people are dying, it seems like there's some tampering with it on the process, right? So how come it's so deadly, so potent? You would think that the drug traders, the narco traffickers, the drug dealers would want people to buy and buy and buy and buy, to keep coming and buying like fiends and clients and junkies, right? So of course, if the people are dying, they're not buying anymore. So something that is odd here, of course, in the sphere, of course, where we are, in the appellation matters, of course, where we are congruently to all the appellations where we have to be doing on that side of the things, where we got to be doing on the transgressive side, and of course the memoriam side of the memorandums, that these, of course, are potentials for us to be on the side of this analysis. So this analysis of the DMA, the direct military assistance and action, has of course to be put into concordance with all other resources that NATO possesses. So it's not just an intellectual. It's not just an intellectual, but it's also a working reference. It has an intellectual, deliberation, philosophical aspect to it, but of course it is something which you have to, of course, be involved in the deliberation. It has to be, of course, put into practice. So the DMAA has to be accorded and put into practice by that from now on. So all the spheres where we are, of course, in the civilizational aspects, we got to get it on that domain now. So that is where we are now today in the situational awareness that the DMA, of course, has to be continually from now on put into, of course, the protocols. That is something which, of course, you have to be on that protocol side of things. And that protocol side of things are that we have to deliberate now to be congrusive. So they're going to go for the first time, I believe, here at the city to see the city. Nice. So the DMAA, I always love when I see tourists here. So the direct military assistance and action, it is something which, of course, we have to get doing on that, and something which we have to get on the doing, on the putting into practice. So that's where we have to start with now. The DMAA going to rephrase it, so it has consequences. So the consequences can potentially be that nation states, powerful nation entities and countries foment the internal, of course, discord between countries. So for example, it could be financing transnational criminal syndicate organized groups, just like the one that the RCMP dismantled its super lab. And on August 1st, the United States designated Canada as an unusual and extraordinary threat. I get goosebumps just thinking about it. So just those goosebumps, and I gotta be careful with the raccoons. There's raccoons, so gotta be careful with the raccoons, I see them, they're coming, they're raccoons, man. I let them pass. So of course now the DMAA is, from a philosophical, intellectual, to be proposition and theory and framework of working, of deliberation, to be put into action, where the next time we take action.